This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we're going to give our recap of the 2026 National Sports Collectors Convention. That's going to be our one topic for today because we got a lot to talk about the show. But of course, when you do a 5-day card show, whether as a dealer, whether as a collector, whether as a member of the media covering the show, the three of us kind of fit into those categories. So we'll have a lot to talk about. That's our big topic for today. That's our only topic for today. But anyways, guys, how you doing? Tim, I'm going to start with you because I only saw you on Saturday. So I talked to you at the previous podcast, which was like 2 weeks ago. So I haven't talked to you in like 2 weeks. And then I saw you on Saturday, but what's up, man? How you been?
I am dazzling and amazing. I've never been this good. This is the greatest I've ever felt in my entire life.
That's great.
And I owe it all to this great hobby we're a part of.
Yes. It's cool to collect.
That's it. That's it. I'm just a bastion of positivity.
That's it. That's the tweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Clemente, how about you? I know we saw each other a lot over the past 5 days. But how are you feeling?
Good. I feel the same way after every national, which is tired. And then I felt like for 5 days, nothing else in the world mattered. So I got home last night, back to New York. I had like a ton of mail to go through. I had emails to sort through. There was news I had to catch up on. I mean, literally, I don't know what was happening around me except for what was happening inside the convention hall. So yeah, it's a nice distraction for 5 days every year, but it's a lot.
I was pretty wiped out. I feel like I've been at about 50% battery power today, which is why we're starting this recording later, just because everything got backlogged. I slept for like 10 hours. But, that's the thing. When you go to a convention like the National, maybe you get to bed on time. But if you are selling at the show, you leave later, you get there earlier, so you're there longer, and the show is like 9 to 6 every day, so it's like 9 hours, and it's like 1 to 8 on the Wednesday, but I think I was there a couple hours before, so it's just, even though it ends at 6, you might not get out till like 6:30 or 8:30 or whatever, so it's like you're the first to show up and the last to leave, and then it's just kind of like nonstop. So, yeah, I'm a little tired, but I had a good time, and we'll talk about that when we get into the when we get into the actual recap of the show.
Well, if any of you thought I was being serious earlier, then I got a 1/1 Ovechkin auto graded PSA 10 that I can sell you for $1.
Is it the Young Gun?
I don't know.
Well, then they don't want it.
It might be. Who knows? It'll be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, we should say that people were not looking for Ovechkin; they were looking for other players. We'll talk about that. But Ovechkin was not who they were looking for this time.
No. I mean,
absolutely not.
I joke that people are looking for 5 cards. Those 5 cards just change month to month.
They just rotate. Exactly. There's a rotation.
And I mean, we could talk more about we can talk about this now, but like the ones that I heard the most were Celebrini Young Gun.
Yep.
So Macklin Celebrini Young Gun, Macklin Celebrini autograph.
Well, hold on, and that's because he signed the biggest contract in the league literally on Wednesday. Yeah, he was in the news.
Matthew Schaefer Young Gun.
Well, Rookie of the Year, so yeah.
Patrick Kane Young Gun.
Well, because he's back in Chicago, right? So it was all front of mind stuff.
I don't know what the 5th card was. I mean, of course, there's like, other sports as well. But I mean, just from a hockey.
I was going to say, I'm surprised not every single person asked you if you had any Ohtani cards.
Well, that was the big name in baseball. Yeah, that Ohtani was the, outside of hockey, that was the name. But yeah, we're just talking about hockey cards. Yeah, Ohtani was ridiculous, the prices and just the exposure.
Oh, I mean, people come to my booth and ask if I have any Wembys, if I have any Otanis, if I have. Nobody asked
Right.
about any Knicks players, which it's funny that people just ask me without looking at the cards that I have in my case, which is okay because when you're looking for something, it doesn't hurt to ask. But people would just come up to me and they would say, and this is how I know they're not a hockey fan. They would come up to me and they would just say, "Do you have a Patrick Kane Young Gun?" And I'd say, "I don't." And they'd say, "Okay, thank you." And they'd walk away.
I'd be like, yeah, it's in my set at home.
I did say that to somebody. I think I might have said that more than once, but
And they're like, what's a set?
it's when you get all the cards that look alike.
I mean, interestingly enough, I'm sure whenever there's a show in Chicago, Patrick Kane is obviously someone that people want, but because of his return, people are asking for his Young Guns as if he had been Rookie of the Year like last week or something. It was really ridiculous, and it just goes to show you that whatever's in the news cycle is what, and maybe 6 months from now they won't care as much. I'm sure Celebrini they'll care, but maybe they won't. It'll be whatever other fresh faces out there. They'll want the Gavin McKenna Young Guns card in March, so that'll be the next one. So
Yeah, in Chicago, Patrick Kane is still collected, even though he was traded to the Rangers and then signed with the Red Wings, right? Like that didn't really slow down people collecting him. Like people still collected him. Jonathan Taves, on the other hand, people stopped collecting him when he stopped playing. And then when he started playing again with Winnipeg, they started collecting him again. So I mean, it was just like, oh, he's back, and so now they wanted his cards again. But now that he's retired, nobody really wanted his cards at this show. I probably sold a few, but he wasn't. I mean, you'll sell anything, to the right person. But yeah, like people had that kind of desperation, like got a Patrick Kane Young Gun, right? I don't, but I have other Patrick Kane cards. Oh no, that's okay. I have other Patrick Kane rookie cards. Oh no, that's okay. I have a Patrick Kane autograph card. Oh no, that's okay. I have a bunch of Patrick Kane jersey cards. Oh no, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it was. They were just so hyper fixated as I would argue non-collectors want to do. They want it for trade night. They need it for trade night. So that's what they're after. So
I mean, yeah, there's nothing more to add other than that's exactly the last part is right. Trade night. It was about I need something that's front of mind that I can trade for something else potentially. These people that are looking for the Kane Young Gun were not looking it for their own PC. They were looking at to flip it somewhere else or because it's in demand. So it was clear because otherwise they would look at other cards as well and they were not interested.
So let me give just a quick recap of the facts. The 2026 National Sports Collectors Convention took place Wednesday, July 29th to Sunday, August 2nd. It was held at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, which is a suburb of Chicago. There were 180 autograph guests, including 6 hockey players. We'll talk more about the autograph guests later. There are also some other hockey players who were signing autographs. There are also hockey players there that weren't signing autographs. There are over 600 dealers and 500,000 square feet of convention space. I was back after a 1-year hiatus. I was back at the National. I had a table. It wasn't even really a booth. I just say booth, but it was a single table. Table 58 all the way to like one side. Was it the dark side of the moon? Kind of. There was like no fluorescent light over my table. Like when I looked up and you see like where those long tubular lights are, there was no long tubular lights over my table for some reason.
We should point out that area that you were in last year was not tables; it was a walkway. So they added more tables on that angle, on that slant, and so the convention space does proceed against that wall, obviously, but there's poor lighting there because it's not really meant to go wall to wall, essentially. So, but because it was so crowded, I don't think it mattered where you were. There were crowds everywhere. But yeah, they definitely added more tables and tried to enlarge the space, including upstairs. But nonetheless, the foot traffic was a little crazy.
Yeah, and next year's National will be in the same place at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. Puck Junk will not be in the exact same space. I'll just be a few tables away from where I was. My table's going to be 46 instead of 58. I would have taken the same place if I could have. There was actually a booth lottery. I can talk about that later if you guys want me to. It's probably maybe not that interesting. I mean, Clemente, you already know about it, but might be of interest to listeners. I don't know. Maybe Tim could make that judgment call later.
I don't
Or
think you're allowed to share that. That's like Illuminati stuff that you have to keep secret.
no, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I'm
Okay.
not sharing any trade secrets, but
Fanatics is going to cut you off of your allocation if you talk about it.
but Fanatics doesn't. This isn't Fanatics Fest. This is the
Oh.
National.
Oh, you could have fooled me, but okay. Continue.
Yeah. So I want to give a couple of quick shout outs because we always run into people. I always run into people or they run into me. And like, apologies to anybody who I'm forgetting because, like, if I met you on Wednesday, my mind was probably in like 3 different places at the same time. So I might have talked to you and said, hey, good to see you. And we talked for a while. But then, like, by Friday, I was like, who did I talk to 2 days ago? Who did I talk to yesterday? You know what I mean? So I was trying to make a list from memory of the people that I spoke with, you know. And first shout out I want to give to is Steve Ellis. I'm calling him a Puck Junk super fan because he is. If you're watching the video of this podcast, there's a picture of Steve with none other than the Karate Kid and New York Islanders super fan Ralph Macchio. Not only did Steven pay to get a photo taken with Ralph Macchio, but he chose to wear a Puck Junk t-shirt while doing it. If I was going to pay money to get Ralph Macchio to take a photo with me, I'd probably wear a karate gi because that seems a little more appropriate. But not disrespecting any decisions here. I'm just super flattered by that. Steven also got his photo taken with Jerry Korab on a different day, also in a Puck Junk t-shirt. And way back in March, he got his photo taken with Mike Modano, and he was wearing a Puck Junk shirt. And I said, hey, next time you do that, let me give you another Puck Junk shirt, and you can ask the athlete to wear it. Would you guys wear an Islanders jersey if you met Ralph Macchio, or would you just come as you are?
Well,
I think I'd be killed in an Islanders jersey.
I would never wear one either as a Rangers fan, but I would. I actually did see Ralph Macchio from a distance, but given what he was charging for photos, I didn't want to get too close by mistake and be photographed with him and then have to pay $100.
Right.
So I saw him at a distance, and he had a healthy crowd there because there was crowds everywhere. So that's why.
Yeah.
I have an Islanders jersey. It's a Bill Guerin one.
Yeah, I gave that to you.
So that's all I have. It's the only thing I have that says Islanders. That's not a card.
Huh.
I think. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I have Islander stuff.
I mean, he does have the honorary captain's card. That's a famous card of Ralph Macchio, but
Yeah.
it wasn't worth getting signed. and I don't think, Sal, you were able to sell one during the show.
I was not. I have more success selling that card just randomly than
Right.
like if he's signing at a show.
Yeah.
Nobody buys it. But like if he was charging like $50 an autograph, I would get that Islanders card signed without even thinking about it. But I want to say an autograph was like $139 or something.
He's got a second win though, because of Cobra Kai. That's the thing.
Right, but I would think
He has
like,
made his entire career off of playing one character, basically. His whole life.
Yeah.
He might as well be Rocky.
But anyway, so getting back to the shout outs, I also want to give shout outs to Brett and Jason, who are podcast listeners. I want to give a shout out to our friends Paul and Diane Bogar of DNP Collectibles from Ohio. They sell a lot of hockey stuff. I've probably known them now at shows for 20 years because I started going to card shows back in 2006. And I remember at the Chicago Sports Spectacular, they would always have hockey stuff, a lot of Penguin stuff, but they'd have hockey stuff. And so I'd always buy stuff from them. And I started talking to them. And then just over the years, they've become friends of mine. And then, you know, as Clemente and Tim got to know them, they've become friends with them too. So it's always nice to see them. I know you guys, well, we went out to dinner with them, Clemente. But Tim, did you talk with Diane and Paul at all?
Diane hooked me up with some Penguins Ice Times
Nice
programs from the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah,
But,
well, I ended up buying my Matthew Schaefer Young Guns off of them, and yeah, I could have bought that card months ago on eBay, but I was like, I'll probably see it at the show, and that was one of the cards people were looking for at the show. But last year I bought a Celebrini Young Guns from them as well, so I'm on a streak, 2 years in a row buying the big Young Guns from them. So I probably will end up buying, a Young Guns card from them probably
A
next
Gavin
year.
McKenna next year, just to
Maybe, who knows? It depends how he does, right? You never know.
I picked up a Taylor Heisey from them because I thought I could get it signed, but then they had a card there, so
The oversized one. We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
I didn't have to get that signed.
Also want to say hi to Drew Pelto and Aaron Littleton of the TTM podcast. We ended up going out to dinner with them. They hosted a dinner it was just like, anybody who wanted to go out to this dinner could go out to dinner, but like half the people there had a podcast. And then
It was like it was like a mix of like listeners, dealers, podcasters, people that are connected, writers, because the show has lots of guests on and stuff. So it was kind of a mix of that.
So it was kind of fun. It's fun to hang out with like-minded people. I will also say it's a little awkward at first because it's like you might know one or two people there, but then by the end of the dinner, you kind of know everybody or you know more people. So then you're talking and you're like, this is kind of nice. I like this, So it's good to, I don't want to say get out of your comfort zone, but it's good sometimes to do that sort of thing. Like, you might know one person, but then you end up making other connections, and then hopefully over time you make friends that way. So I think it was good, and the pizza was good too. Let's see, Greg McLaughlin, Rebel Base Card Podcast. Greg is always there. He's always doing a recap of the National. He goes to all the big conventions, even though he specializes and focuses on Star Wars cards. He collects baseball. He collects a little hockey. And he'll always go to the National or the Chicago Sports Spectacular. Always stops by my base, by my booth. And well, it's kind of a base, It's
It felt that way.
So Greg was there, and then he introduced me to Ian of That Card Collectors podcast. And Ian is from England. And he started out by collecting Star Wars and Marvel and Disney cards. But then he got into hockey cards. So he's a British hockey card collector. Also ran into Chris Carlin at PSA Grading. You might know that name because Chris worked at Upper Deck for like 16 years. And he's very helpful there too as well. Sean McCauley. Tim, do you remember when we started meeting up at the National... Not at the National, sorry, at the Chicago Sports Spectacular. There was like this 16-year-old kid that would sometimes hang out with us named Sean, and like we would give him cards. It would be like you, me, there was a guy named Nick, and then there was Justin Godfrey.
I remember.
Yeah, so I'd always refer to him as young Sean. Well, he's like 28 now. I haven't seen him in like...
So he's still young, you're saying?
He is still young.
Yeah, he's still pretty young.
But he's got like a beard and he's like grown up. You know what I mean? Like he bulked out. I'm not saying he got chubby. He was a thin kid, but he just now looks like a normal guy with like a beard but he's like, I don't know if you remember me. And I'm like, oh my God, Sean, you got big and you have facial hair. And I'm like, how's your dad doing? How's your cousin doing? Because I used to hang out with his dad and his cousin at like the Blackhawk conventions, and they'd help me get autographs. I'd help them get autographs. So it was just cool to reconnect with somebody that probably the last time I saw him was probably the 2019 Blackhawk convention. And then, COVID kind of put the ixnay on conventions for a couple of years, and then he went to college, and so he didn't have time for like card shows and stuff. So it was really fun to reconnect with a collector that I had known, 15 years ago. And he's doing good. So I'm happy to see him again. David Sleepka was somebody at the dinner. He owns Champion Collectibles Consulting, but he's a former Beckett writer. And we were talking about TTM collecting, of course, because you had Drew and Aaron at the TTM podcast. There was Wade Butte from My TTM Gems, who also does through the mail autograph collecting. And I just said, oh, I got my start with that back in 1990. I read this article in Beckett Hockey about collecting hockey autographs through the mail. And the guy sitting across from me got this big grin on his face. And then Wade turned and he's like, that was your article, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what? He's like, I wrote that. I'm like, no way, dude. That's what got me started. So it was cool to meet somebody who like inspired me. I don't do TTM autographs anymore, but I did for a long time. So that was cool to meet him. Wade Butte of My TTM Gems. And then Jeff Dotseth, Matt Bleberg of Upper Deck. And also need to throw a shout out to Jason Masera from Upper Deck, who also, he like ran to me and Clemente and he like flagged us down and then we talked to him for like 20 minutes. So
it was at the end of one of the days.
It was at the end of one of the days. We were just like walking around and Clemente's like, oh, you got to see the Upper Deck booth. They had this really cool Tony Esposito display.
And he was right there.
Jason was like, hey, what's going on, guys? And then, talk to him for a bit. But then Matt, who's one of the brand managers for Upper Deck, I believe he does Upper Deck CHL. And then Jeff, who is the head of their customer care team. And he's always taken good care of me whenever I've had a problem with a missing hit or a defective card or whatever, but he takes good care of everybody. Because I haven't really heard many people, or any people, complain about like Upper Deck fixing something when it's not right. So yeah, I know that was a lot of names to shout out, and I apologize if I missed anybody, but just wanted to say great talking with all of you, even if it was for a few minutes or if it was for, a few hours. It was awesome. This is going to be like a vacation slideshow. Like most of these photos were taken by Clemente. So this is like Clemente's vacation slideshow. You ever do that to anybody, Clemente or Tim, where you like, maybe you stream it to your TV and you're like, oh, you got to see our honeymoon at Niagara Falls. Did you guys ever do that?
No, but
I'm not a walking cliche, so no, I've never.
Growing up, though, we'd go on vacation and come home, and that would be like we'd all see the photos from the summer, like on a slide. What was it called? A slide deck. It was like this thing. It was like
a projector.
A projector was
the
circular.
Carousel.
The carousel, exactly. Dating myself, but yes, it was on that with little slides, and my dad would, get the film developed, put the slides in, and we'd watch it like every September, so this is kind of like that.
Yeah. So why don't you describe these photos, especially for those who are listening to the audio version of this podcast? We can't just be like, that's picture, that's picture.
No, yeah. So the one on the left is the welcome to the national sign. That's always like an iconic photo. Lots of people are taking photos in front of it. I took a photo of, this is people coming in now just to show how busy it was. And I had taken other photos too, because people line up and then stand in this line for what seems hours, which doesn't make any sense to me because you can just walk in if you came 15 minutes later. But anyway, it's always this big sort of crowd that tries to get in. And there's people like us, either you're a journalist or a dealer or whatever, you have VIP, then you come and go, you can go earlier, and it's better that way if you can do it. The one on the right that's just a crowd shot from the main hall. And there's those tables, you can't even see tables in the photo. It's like 3 or 4 deep. And that was on Saturday. I should point out that I thought Wednesday was a healthy crowd, as was Thursday. And Friday was very good. And then Saturday was something I had never seen before, which is pretty wild. And then Sunday was really quiet.
You and I both.
So that shot is taken on Saturday, and I could have taken even more photos, but the truth is, you had to be there to be able, or to not be able to walk. Really, that was the case. You really couldn't get through. And the National is so big now, the footprint, that if you want to go from one side to another or upstairs or whatever, you can't move with any ease. And that's kind of the problem. And it's not because the aisles are too tight. I mean, that was the case upstairs, like once again. But downstairs, there's plenty of room. It's just that when you have, dozens and dozens of people trying to go in the same direction, or actually opposite directions, and maybe that's something they should consider in the future. Maybe some aisles you go up and some you go down, because the fact that people are trying to go in opposite directions in the same aisle doesn't make any sense. But and that's why there's all these bottlenecks and everything else. And so if you're in a rush to get from one place to another, good luck. It's not going to happen.
As a New Yorker, that must be really frustrating for you.
It is when you leave New York, you don't want to see it elsewhere. But I think the frustration, and I can give the baton to Tim here, is that you want to see things and you can't because you can't even get to a table. You can't get to a table that someone told you about because it's located like 15 rows in another direction. You're like, well, I'm never going to get there.
Yeah, and let me preface this by saying everything I say is about Saturday because I wasn't there the rest of the days. It's the only day I went.
Did you go upstairs?
No, didn't even make it upstairs.
Saturday, and it's about the downstairs.
Yep, didn't even make it upstairs.
He couldn't get upstairs. He couldn't get up there.
In fact, if you want to be perfectly honest, it's about Saturday, it's about the downstairs, and it's only about maybe 2/3 of the square footage of the downstairs.
Right.
Because it's just, I mean, here's the thing. All I can say about the crowds is that I expected it to be busy after seeing some pictures and videos in the preceding days leading up to Saturday. I was not prepared for what we encountered once we got inside the convention center. I just wasn't. In all my years of going to the Chicago National, because I've only been to the Chicago ones, I've never, ever seen that many people. Even the last couple years when it's been, the quote unquote record breaking crowds and attendance records, it wasn't this congested. Not even close. Like the lobby itself, when we got there, and we got there late, because my thought process was, okay, these crowds wrapped around the building and 2 miles down the block. I'm not dealing with that. So we're going to wait an extra 45 minutes before we leave. That way we get there about 30 minutes after they open. So then that will thin out, right? That was my idea. Of course, it wasn't planning on the torrential downpour that we had to drive in, and a 70-minute drive ended up taking 2.5 hours.
Well, that's also a testament. I mean, that was horrible rain, the kind that you would never leave your house. Yeah. And that didn't stop anyone from going on that day.
Yeah, apparently not, because everyone was there and they brought all of their friends and their family members and they were just raring to go. And so like we didn't even get there till almost 12 o'clock, and it took another 20 minutes just to park. So by the time we even got in there was no crowd. Like we walked in, we walked across the skywalk, no problem, snaked through the top upper floor, got on the escalator, we were down, we were in, no problem. But going down, and as you come down the escalator and you see the lobby to me looked like if you took TSA baggage claim and the departure gates of the busiest airport you've ever been in, that was the lobby. Like it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So yeah, I would have taken, like you said, I would have taken a picture of that too, but I think I was in shock, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, we avoided the entry line, but good Lord, like we ran into like just everyone. So yeah, we got in, no problem. But then once we got in, good Lord, it's hard for me to explain it. And I try to explain to people, and they're always like, yeah, I don't like crowds. I don't go to things like that because there's crowds. Yeah. I've gone to this so many times, and as busy as it's ever been, this is crazy. Like this is absolutely crazy. And we talk about it's 500,000 square feet. Okay. If you had 500,000 people there and each person stood in a 1-foot space, there were still felt like there was more people than that because there was that many people.
Well, you have the square footage, but you also have tables and all kinds of, I mean, this photo that I took here, this is right across to the left of this photo is a row of corporate booths, and then these are dealers now you're looking at. So that's a pretty wide aisle, and even that got pretty crowded on Saturday. So,
well, and we all know in these shows, all the vintage dealers that have been going there since day one, they all have the grandfathered in space right in front of the main doorways, right? Yes. So you walk in, it's not that bad there.
No.
Like their tables in that front little section, that front little area, there was room to walk.
Yeah.
So like we had to hit the head off to the side real quick, and then we started trying to make our way down the first aisle, and we got probably to the first split that went front to back.
And then there's a bottleneck right there. Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
It was screeching halt. The next probably 40 minutes, we probably made it, I don't know, 40 feet, 50 feet forward, because there were so many people. You couldn't see the tables. You couldn't get to the tables. They were stacked 2 people deep. Everybody had their cases, swinging them around and everywhere. You couldn't move. You were like trying to squeeze in between people. We had to jump out of those lanes and try to cut back to the front to try to make our way and cut through. And we couldn't even do that. So finally we gave up and just went to the corporate booths in the middle just to check those out, because there was so much more room and space. And we probably spent easily a couple hours going through the museums that were the auction houses. And that was fine. I mean, I had fun doing that. There's some crazy stuff in there. Just crazy stuff. But like I said, we get there at 12. It's pushing 3:00 by the time we even could try to wade our way through the crowds to get to some of the tables to start looking at what people had. That's how crazy it was.
So there were some hockey players, some women hockey players signing autographs at the National. Clemente, you want to talk more about this since you took these photos again?
Yeah, so the signers are a little confusing, and we'll clarify that. I mean, there's signers at the TriStar Pavilion, and then there was Upper Deck that really upped their game this year and brought in, players, both male and female, to break cards, talk about hockey, I mean, Fanatics Fest style, let's put it that way. So, Megan Keller was there. She's on the left, and she was signing autographs at TriStar. You can see from the tablecloth. And I was there taking pictures, and I got a really good picture of her. And she had a really good long line, a U.S. gold medalist, Olympian this past February. So obviously she's going to be popular, in demand. If there's ever a reason or time to bring in someone like that, it would be now. And, people were getting all kinds of stuff signed, and you can tell they were getting like huge photos, and they were trying to get like many other, players from that team on the same photo. In some cases, they already had other autographs on there. And so that was cool. I think people are trying to create, trying to get, stuff to remember 2026 and the big year it was, and she scored the winning goal and sudden death. So just, overall a good experience there on, I think it was on Saturday. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then on the right, we're looking at a picture of Taylor Heisey. She was doing a card break there at the Upper Deck booth, and then she did sign these oversized postcards that Tim and I were there for. And that crowd was smaller, and that could be because I think people just, if you don't know Upper Deck was doing this, you wouldn't know. If you never walk by their booth or you're not on their social media channels, you don't know what they're doing. And that's another thing, and that can't be helped. Obviously, you can't advertise it anywhere else. The National advertises its signers with TriStar on the website. Upper Deck does it on their own website, but if you're not someone who's visiting the Upper Deck site, you would know about it or follow them on social media. So I do recommend, if people do love hockey, try to follow as much as you can on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter, what X, follow Upper Deck, because this year they did something that they told me they want to do every year, which is they want to bring in players to interact with fans and collectors and just make their booth a bigger presence, because they realize, like we have many years ago, that hockey is not a big part of the show. There isn't enough hockey dealers, enough hockey signers, and they want to try to fill that void while also trying to grow their brand. Interestingly enough, I feel like Upper Deck has spent the last 5 years at the National promoting everything but hockey. We have this beach volleyball player, we have Tony Hawk, we have Michael Jordan, and that's all great. But the core business is hockey. And so this, that's a great example of her being there. And she's not the only one that was there. I mean, Gavin McKenna was there. We'll talk about that. And
he's there in the picture.
Yeah, and he created. Yeah, he's right over her shoulder.
Looking over her shoulder.
He created a whole Fanatics Fest type buzz, if you want to put it that way, at the National. But we'll talk about that. Yeah, so
we talk about that now.
Right. So he was there, not to sign autographs or do anything like that. It was pretty much sort of like I would call like a staged appearance, not just him, but all 21 rookies and prospects that appear at the NHL Rookie Showcase, which, if anyone listens to this podcast, knows that takes place in September in Washington, D.C. Kind of a standalone event. The media goes to it, interviews the players, gets photos, and Upper Deck uses it as an opportunity to get video and photos that they use throughout the year to promote the rookies and their products. This year, they decided, why don't we do it simultaneously to the National in Chicago, and we'll bring these guys to the booth and we'll have them rip cards and interact with people. And Gary McKenna is a big name, #1 draft pick for the Maple Leafs this past year, and the front runner to be the Rookie of the Year next year. And he was at the booth, and there was a big crowd there. And then they walked across the aisle there to go to David Adams and rip some cards there, and it got pretty crazy with people following him and trying to get selfies. And he didn't really do a lot of that, to be honest. He was there because he had to be there, I think. No autographs, something like that. So and so it's difficult at a show like this. You want to create buzz and social media clips, but I think collectors want either a photo or they want an autograph. And when you bring an athlete in who doesn't do any of those things, it is a little strange.
Yeah, it's like watch him open a pack of cards. It's like,
right.
Yay. I mean, here's the thing is that like these younger players, they didn't really collect cards. I mean, you'll have an outlier like Josh Doan, right? You talked to Josh Doan.
Yes.
You talked about collecting his
father,
but
it's rare
cards and
it's rare.
Teammates but that's a little different because he had like a dad in the NHL, so it's kind of like, oh, I could see these pictures,
he grew up with
like,
it. Yeah.
The younger guys, they played video games, they played the NHL games, so to them opening the cards is kind of like a novelty, and then they'll just be like, oh, look, here's a guy I play against, here's a guy I play with, you know what I mean? There's nothing. And Tim, not to get into a tangent, but you tend to watch the NHL Network a lot when they have like those guys open packs. When you have like Kevin Weeks or Stu Grimson open cards. I don't know if Stu's ever done it. You could tell me more. But when you have like guys who played in like the 80s and the 90s opening the cards, they remember getting cards in like the 60s and the 70s, and they're always excited when they pull like a card of like a retro player, like, oh my God, it's a card of Ron Francis. You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, card of, Macklin Celebrini, great player, card of Connor Hellebuck, awesome goaltender, to be like, oh my God, card of this guy that I played against. And they get like so excited. I don't know if that happens with these younger guys. Like, they don't really seem. I mean, Tim, what do you think? And then Clemente, what's your thought on like did they have any reaction to any of the cards that they opened, or was it just like, I'm doing this because I'm paid to do this?
Well, the thing you were talking about on NHL Network, it's a segment they call Unwrapped.
Yes.
So they do that all the time because Upper Deck sponsors it, and they basically give them juice boxes. I'm pretty sure
they give them juice boxes like C Orange.
Yeah, Ecto Cooler.
Ecto Cooler.
Yeah.
Sharkleberry Fin. Wait, that's Kool-Aid.
But they're set up to correspond with whatever it is they're talking to, more or less. But they open packs of whatever the new product is and showcase the stuff that's on there. And so they'll do that. They'll do that segment, and whoever's on the panel that day, they open cards. And I mean, it's usually a thing. I mean, most guys seem interested in what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, you got multiple things here, right? We're obviously trying to tap into the same spirit and functionality of what Fanatics Fest has become, right? We got to have all this activation. We got to have all these athletes. We got to make them accessible. We got to make them seem human. We got to put them out there for the fans to interact with and all that kind of stuff. But football, baseball, basketball, all of that aside, any hockey fan knows that hockey players 95% of them are very private. They're very quiet. They're very reserved within their own rights because they're taught to be that from very little. And they're taught to kind of like, keep it in kind of thing. That's why everybody's like, why can't we get some type of excitement? Like everybody's just plain and dry and they give all the same interviews all the time and everything else. We're always looking for that, like spice it up. We need some excitement with some of these guys, but they're all reserved. So like getting these guys to get excited about every little thing, especially when they're not even into it, if it's not in their wheelhouse, so to speak. I mean, you got a couple years ago, you had Braden Yeager, Joseph Wall's a collector. I mean, you already said Domi. There's been collectors throughout the years that have been vocal about them collecting cards when they were a kid and still collecting cards now, but they're few and far between. So if this is the direction Upper Deck is taken, and they're going to try to get more interactive like this, they're going to have to start putting those feelers out there, finding out what players collect, what players don't. So they better be going to the all these rookie photo events and asking every single question they can possibly ask, so they know which ones to invite to all these events going forward.
Yeah, no, the way you are saying that makes sense, but it's like a chicken egg thing with Upper Deck. They want to show the players how big the collecting community is and how much it matters to them. So they're trying to educate the players.
And it might unlock, that's what I'm saying. It might unlock something. Like
It
might be like, wow,
may,
this is really cool.
but in the meantime, this is the learning curve part. So Gavin McKenna doesn't collect cards because he's like, what, 19-year-old kid, a 21-year-old kid. He never bought cards because he grew up in the 2000s, and why would he do that? And so now he's learning, like he was opening packs probably for the first time in his life in front of all these people. So the excitement level is kind of like, okay, it's lots of pictures of men on cards, sure. And so, I think it's more for the fans. What hockey needs is like, you need like a hockey version of Rob Gronkowski, Gronk, just to be like this over the top persona. And that doesn't exist in hockey. And I think you're right. Culturally, that's the case. 95% of these guys are also Canadians, and Canadians are not known to be this flashy anyways. And whenever I look at these draft picks, I always look to see like where they grew up, and it's always like a town of 20,000 people in Western Canada. And I'm like, he's probably never seen this many people in one place in his life. And some of them said that they couldn't believe the crowd there, which we said that ourselves, and we've been to this before. And they've never been to a national. They've never been to anything like this. Unless someone in your family is collecting, you would know about this. And it's not.
And that's
It's not
the
in the
thing. We
culture.
always beg for these guys to have a personality.
Yeah.
And then when we don't, we're not surprised. But then when we get that rare one, that rare unicorn that has a personality, like the Kachucks, for instance,
Right.
then all the purists are just like, screw that guy. Yeah, he sucks. He doesn't appreciate and the spirit of the game and all of this kind of stuff. It's like you can't have it both ways. Like you can't.
But and I agree with all that. But I think in Upper Deck's case, I like what they're doing. Even if some parts of it may seem forced, because the opposite is to do nothing, and we've complained about that. I want them to be more forward thinking. I want them to be push more for hockey. I want them to have a bigger booth. I want them to basically, they didn't say this, but they said it between the lines, which is they see Tops, Fanatics doing all this stuff, and that, competition is good. We've all done this in our lives. If someone is competing with you, you're going to up your game, and they're upping their game, and I applaud them for that. And look, maybe bringing in the rookies the first time they ever did it, maybe it was a little clunky, but they're going to learn from it, and they're going to make it better next year. And maybe they can do something else around that. And maybe they could have had him signing an oversized postcard. That would have had a big line, I'm sure. It would have been amazing. And maybe they're not there yet. And maybe they don't want him to sign cards for free for 100 people because his autograph is going to be worth something. They want to put it in product. This guy, what the rookie showcase Dirty Seekers, a lot of these players spend hours just signing stickers and other products for hours and hours and hours. These guys don't want to sign more stuff in front of people. They don't want to take selfies in front of people, with people. So, but it's hard to have a big name make a public appearance, and then the crowd is like, well, what do we get out of this? We just see him, we get to look at him, open cards. That's not exciting. So I think that's something that works better on social. So, for example, if you were home and you were watching the McKenna stuff on your feed, that generates more excitement than if you were there, because it creates this like, oh, I should have been there. It's like, trust me, you wouldn't have done anything more than what I did, which was, I'm following this guy, trying to get pictures, trying to get content, trying to do some journalism here. But everyone's at arm's length. There were security guards everywhere, big guys in suits. Like, you're not going to get that close. You're not going to touch the guy. You're not going to put your arm around him. It's not happening. So, but having said that, and also, as you know, like the moment a guy like this is walking around the National with that crowd, there's already a big crowd of people there doing other things. So now it becomes much more complicated to be like, and then you have all these people following him with cameras. You have Upper Deck is filming this. The NHLPA was there. They had representatives there. They were filming it. So they're creating content for their platforms. So it's kind of confusing and kind of big, but I like what they did. Like the Taylor Heisey, for example, her signing, that was fun. They brought her in. There were a lot of little kids there, a lot of little young girls. I love that. That's great. I think that's, she took pictures with some people. We were there. We saw that. So
how about the cameo while we were standing in line?
Oh, the cameo. Yeah, this is a funny side note. Tell them we were waiting on the line.
Yeah, we're waiting in line, and there's this guy standing there with like one of those drawstring backpacks on. Yeah. He's about yay high. And I'm like looking at this guy, and then one dude that was in line in front of us like jumps out of line and just goes right up to him. He's like, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind if I got a picture with you? I'm such a huge fan," and all this kind of stuff. And I see the guy turn his head, and I'm like, holy crap, it's Tony Schiavone from wrestling, the wrestling announcer. He's been in like every wrestling league since I was a kid at one point or another. I think he's in AEW now, which made sense because Upper Deck has the AEW license.
Right.
But he was standing there like he was just a guy.
Yep.
And throughout the rest of Saturday, we must have ran into him 3 more times.
Oh, just really?
Wandering around the show floor, like looking at stuff.
Right.
Like just a regular old collector.
Yeah.
No one bothering him. No one really stopping him or doing anything. He was just walking around, looking at stuff. I was like, now that's cool. I'm like, that's really cool. He's just cool. A regular guy.
So in addition to having players come to their booth and not sign autographs, Upper Deck also did have some players come and sign autographs. Clemente already mentioned Taylor Heisey signing an oversized card. They also had Artyom Levshunov of the Blackhawks. He was signing on Sunday, and I believe Nick Lardis was also signing, I think, on Saturday.
Lardis was there before Taylor was earlier.
Okay, so it was Saturday. And I think it's like the one thing that, like, when I was at the National last year as a attendee, as a what do you call it? It just as a collector, or even in like years past, I would always hit those things. I mean, Tim, you remember the one National where we got I think we got autographs from Bill Gadsby, and then we went we made a beeline to the In the Game booth to get an autograph from was it Mark Wells of the Miracle on Ice team?
Yeah, Mark Wells. I still have that. It's hanging on my wall over here.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the thing though, is that
it was the oversized Mark Wells decades
1980s card. Yeah. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, like I would make like I'd have a plan. I'd be like, Upper Deck is doing a raffle at this time, and In the Game is has an autograph appearance from this player, and this is going on. You know what I mean? Like it's fun to hit those things, and I'm actually a little sad that last year the only hockey person Upper Deck had at its booth was Chance the mascot. and this year they had a couple of former Blackhawks and a PWHL superstar. So I mean, damn, I mean, talk about upping their game. No disrespect to Chance the mascot. I mean, he did take a few pictures with me. Uh, I insisted on one where we fist bump, but then he insisted on one where he's biting my head. Um,
I mean, look, I mean, we talked about this in our pre-national, the preview about how Upper Deck needed to raise their game, and they totally did. And if you
Yeah.
compared this year's booth to last year, I mean, last year is sad by comparison. I mean, it was not great last year, but it was even sadder when you compare it to what they did this year. I think what they did this year is what you need to do. Now, having said that, they were right next door to the Tops booth. That booth was also ginormous, and also basically the same booth they had at Fanatics Fest. So for them, it's a lot easier now that they've done this like 2 weeks before. They can just basically do the same thing over and over again. So yeah, the corporate area was, the exception of I think Upper Deck and Tops. The rest of the booths, the corporate areas were pretty, much the same booth they have every year. Panini the same size and everything else. The one difference was it really spread out across the show. I mean, their corporates went from where Upper Deck was and Tops to the middle. Then there was PSA, and it spread out all the way to where your booth was, Sal, with more corporates. So the corporate area has gotten bigger. So the show's gotten bigger, but there's a lot of space that's used not wisely. For example, PSA took up so much space in the middle. I'm not really sure why they needed all that space, considering after day one, they had to shut everything down essentially, and it became basically just these red monuments to PSA, but nothing was happening really. The submissions had to be reduced, and the middle part was
$1,500 to submit a card.
Right. They tried to, they were raising it every time to reduce the number of submissions. The value had to go up and up and up. So this way they would reduce the number of people, because the first day must have been everybody, and they were like, we're done. And then they had
so many people go to that show or other shows where they have submission drop-offs just so they can do the in-person drop-offs.
Correct. They don't want to mail it in. I don't blame people for that. But
there were people that were heading that way for the weekend only just for that purpose. And it's like, sorry, if you weren't there the first 2 days, you're SOL unless you plan on submitting at the highest freaking level.
And the other thing too, the middle was the PSA vault, but it wasn't, I don't know what they were doing there. And then they had this like area where they were basically podcasters talking. And this is another Fanatics Fest thing where there's content being created or produced in various places live. No one's really watching it though. They're watching it maybe at home, but they're not watching it there because it's not a great experience in person. Again, it's another one of these things that's great on social, but not so great when you're in the room.
Yeah, let's put a tab in that and come back to that in a minute, because since we're on the topic of Upper Deck, I had these other nice photos ready to show that you took. So like Upper Deck had like two booths, and they had like one that was really heavy on like hockey and hockey history. The Chicago Blackhawks actually participated. They had a what was it? They had like Tony Esposito's game used equipment on display, which I thought was awesome. They also had like some other game worn equipment. They had like televisions showing like highlights of the players. Like they had one that was about Stan Mikita. They had another one that was like showing Connor Bedard highlights. They had these like big, almost like monoliths. I mean, they were like these giant backlit posters of players like McDavid and Celebrini, and I wish I had more time to hang out there. I'd only go there like at the end of the show or just really quick, just for one reason or another. But like I couldn't really hang out, but it really looked nice. And then they had like this area for people to sit and open their cards, and it looked like a hockey rink. It had like boards, and I thought that was really cool. What do you guys think of that?
I like how you captured on these pictures here. You've got all the people sitting around in Celebrini. They're talking about his new contract and how he's the wave of the future and he's going to make hockey better and the NHL is going to be booming after this. And then you've got the guy sitting in front of the McDavid thing as an Edmonton fan, pondering how he's not going to re-sign in Edmonton, and he's going to become a Toronto Maple Leaf after next season.
I should point out they had 4 of those pillars. The other 2 featured Schaefer and Bedard. So it's interesting to see who Upper Deck likes to promote. I mean, Bedard, I mean, I know no one remembers who he is, but it is Chicago. Up until 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he was like the biggest name in the hobby, and his presence was sort of at the National, was there in terms of cards and other memorabilia, but it was really, and it's all better than me. The demand wasn't really there that we normally see. But
I think people are still hoarding Bedard cards rather than trying to sell right now.
He's a hold.
No, they were trying to sell them to me. I probably turned down.
Yeah.
Not exaggerating, probably turned down 10 Bedard Young Guns over the 5 days, and there might have been more, there might have been less, and there might have been people who had them that just didn't offer them to me, or they like pulled out the case, and I was just like, everything's graded, that's okay. Thank you, but no thank you. So yeah, I mean, I had one guy, he was so like, he wanted like to trade me for a card, but then he also wanted me to pay cash for this Bedard, and I said, no, that's okay. It's like day one of the show. I'll just sell you this card. It's like a $20 card. And he's like, oh, I was hoping we could work out a trade. I go, yeah, but then I'm still paying you money, and it's day one of the show, and I want to make money. And then he's like, oh, well, I'll think about that $20 card. And he walked away and never came back. Some people, I know, right? But yeah, no, it seems like more people were asking if I was buying Bedard than if I was selling Bedard.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe because he's injured, they're a little spooked. And they don't want to buy his cards.
I mean, it's like a company. When you have bad earnings report, people dump the stock. I mean, he's not doing anything. He's not playing. He's injured. He's on a team that isn't making the playoffs. At the same time, you have someone like Celebrini, who had a great Olympics, had a good year. He's got this new contract. Some people have said, like Tim, was a year ago, that people are saying he's better than Bedard, and maybe he is. And I'm just happy that we've had some pretty good rookie classes the last 3-4 years. I mean, we've had, you go from Bedard to Celebrini to Schaefer. Like, these guys are, at least in the first year, they're hitting their marks. Then whatever happens long term, we don't know. But in terms of the hobby, that's what matters. It matters really what you did the first 15 months. After that, then you may be stuck with the cards. That's fine. But the wheeling and dealing happens early on. And Schaefer was another big name, obviously, because he had a good year. But we'll see what happens. I mean, with rookies, you never know. I mean, I always think you have to wait 4 or 5 years anyways. But the hobby doesn't have that kind of patience. It has to be fast and quick, and then it has to be sustainable over time.
Yeah, we all know how defensemen fall off when it comes to the hobby.
That's true. Yeah, ask Kel McCarr.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the PSA booth earlier, and how they stopped taking submissions. So then they just had this giant, like, almost looks like the DMV line or the really big post.
By the way, this photo was taken on Thursday when they shut basically everything down on Wednesday. So this was like the best. This is the most crowded it probably got on Thursday and Friday. And then after that, it really died off. But yeah, it looks like they're like you go to the bank,
Yeah. Oh my God, I used to remember.
They still weren't hitting the things on Sunday. I heard. Like, everybody was promised their cards by the end of the show.
The grading on site.
Yeah, they weren't hitting any of
because they had to shut it down after a day basically, and they couldn't, because we know. I mean, grading is hot, and it's super hot, and PSA probably should have known better than to say, yeah, we're taking submissions. Unless
interesting about that, just not to beat this dead horse into the ground, but I wonder how much spillover the other guys got because of it. Both times I walked past Beckett, it was a ghost town.
Okay, so I asked a little bit, so I was curious about that. CGC did do very well, and I think the first 2 days they did better than all of last year. For example, the National. So they got spillover, or there were people that just like those slabs. Beckett, on the other hand, I agree with you. It was a great place to take a nap, probably. No, I mean they were also doing on-site grading, I think, because one of the ballrooms in the back, I was walking around, upstairs on the second floor, and there was like a whole room where people were picking up their cards. But when I say a whole room, I mean a whole ballroom, but there were like 2-3 people in the hallway. So you're right. There was no spillover. Nobody that wanted a PSA graded card, I think, said, I'll go to Beckett. They said, you know what, I'll hang on to it. I'll mail it in,
Yeah, and I saw the SGC booth. I mean, there were a few people in there a couple times, not many. Beckett was dead, and
Yep.
I don't think Tag was even there.
No,
So
Tag was not there. No.
I dropped off a few cards at SGC. I have some 33, 34 OPC hockey cards that I purchased that were raw, and then I have some that I purchased that were graded in SGC slabs. And I like the way those slabs look. And I said, oh, I want to get my raw 33, 34 OPC cards graded by SGC just so that they're all in the same type of slab. Originally, I was going to do all of my 30s cards, and I have a few cards from the 19 teens. And then I just didn't have time. Like every night, I'm like, oh, this is something I need to do. This is something I need to do. And then finally, like Saturday night, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get these 6 cards graded. And yeah, there was not really a line there. I mean, I'd go there and maybe ask them a few questions beforehand about, what's the best way to get my submission ready, and they were even like, well, you could do it online and print out the invoice, or you could even just come here and sit with us and we'll do it with you. And I just thought, okay, they obviously have time. Talking about SGC now. If they told me that I could just show up with my cards and they would sit down and do the submission,
what happened to collectors shutting them down or turning them into like a boutique type thing?
Well, I guess they are a boutique type thing, but this is the first national that they've done in 2 years. They didn't do the national last year. I asked them if they were going to do the Chicago Sports Spectacular in the fall. They said probably not. They said, but we should hopefully be at the national next year. But they didn't do it last year because that was around the time PSA collectors bought them and just didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't understand. Like, I get that. Clemente, remember at the expo, PSA had a similar booth. It was like 8 windows.
Yes.
And like nobody was in line for any of them.
I remember. It was very similar to this one, at least this photo. Yeah, I remember that.
But I felt like at the expo, like if you wanted a table, you could have gotten one. Like there was that big PSA booth, but it wasn't like it displaced anybody. It was just like they had more room. Because remember, we'd go to the end of the show, and then it would just like there'd just be like empty.
Yes.
It was like empty. It's like, okay, the tables end here, and then look, there's another 80 feet of just empty convention center,
right,
or whatever. So, I guess like if you're a victim of your own success, that's good. But at the same time, you got to be spending a lot of money to have something like this that's only going to, I guess if you have money to burn, go for it. But
I think I told you this during the show. I said, in PSA's case, what business do you know that turns down business? I mean, they're telling people, don't come. We can't help you. We're inundated, right? That's, I mean, and they can't do anything about it. They could hire more people, maybe not. I don't know. Card graders don't fall off trees.
They usually yell and scream and complain and everything else, but yet no one stops using them ever.
No, it's true.
So you're a victim of your own stupidity. That's what I say.
I think because a big segment of the hobby is dominated by breakers, flippers. These people want it in a PSA slab. The trade night people want PSA slab because it brings the most value to the card. So that's what that's about. It's not about, some people like the way it looks, but can't be everybody because that's ridiculous. It doesn't look that good. I think it's because they know that a PSA 10 is better than a Beckett 10 or a CGC 10 or whatever. It brings more value. and that's what they care about.
Yep.
By the way, we should talk about what was happening on the picture on the left. That's just a stage. We didn't talk about the whatnot.
Love the sign. Fueled by the community. If I lived in a community that looked like that, I would.
Yeah, so we should talk about, this was the Breaker Pavilion that Whatnot was basically sponsoring, and you can tell it was that area because there was shouting, there was screaming. It was basically the casino in Back to the Future 2. But Whatnot had draped it all with this yellow, curtain, so you knew it was set aside. By the way, that part of the show was basically like, people I knew were like, we're not even going in there. I would use it as a cut through sometimes, because for as crazy as it was never that crowded. And what was interesting about it was there was a lot of giveaways, a lot of yelling on stage. There were a lot of these people breaking cards, on social media in their various booths, but there was nothing there for the person that was walking there. I mean, it was totally a useless. I mean, talk about an area that could be used for dealers. I mean, I'm sure there's a long wait list, but these people have lots of money, and breakers are a big part of the hobby. So we know that they're going to get priority and they're going to get their own space. But as a section, it was a completely weird and strange and loud, and I mean, it wasn't anything that I cared about, but I did take some photos because I knew that we would have to talk about it at some point.
Look, when we were getting jammed up in all of the aisles we tried to get through on the main floor,
Yeah,
against my best judgment, and only because I thought we need to cover some ground here.
as a cut through.
We decided to dip into the breaker area. Just to let our brains fully absorb the lights and the sounds and the smells of Bro Vegas.
Yeah.
So, wow. All I can say is wow. What a freaking circus it was in there. First of all, there was a crazy amount of people. Everybody had a camera. Everybody was filming. Everybody was putting on shows. And it was just the sheer amount of kids that were watching this stuff and just sitting there, just eating this up. It was astounding. And even more so, I mean, here's the even better one. Like, my kids aren't big in the hobby by any means. They're aware because their dad's a fiend when it comes to cardboard, but they're not into it. But even my kids, not collectors by any sort of the imagination, knew at least half a dozen or so of these P.T. Barnum people yelling and screaming up on the various stages as we were walking through the show, because they've seen them on TikTok or Instagram or something for whatever reason. Like seriously, at times you would have thought there was a concert going on, because right in front of that Whatnot stage, like the few times that we passed through there, it was kids and adults both screaming and yelling and shouting at the breakers, and sometimes on command. Like there was some kind of script that was handed out prior to the show that I didn't know about, and they were all like shouting the same things at the same time and stuff. It was just pure insanity.
I actually joked around with Paul, Diane, and if they're listening, they'll remember this. I said, "Oh, that area should have like a sign that says, like, like we have strobe lights and lasers may cause seizures. Like, they should have, because it was just, but it wasn't as crowded as it looked, because stage area was crowded. But if you wanted to cut through the aisles there, you could. So
you could move around in there.
You could
because all the people were centered around certain booths.
Yeah, they were jammed up for example, this is a good example. Like, they were jammed up near the stage, but for example, there was not nearly the crowd that you saw across on the other side where eBay had their booth. That was huge, and there were like hundreds of people there the entire time, the whole 5 days, because they had big names coming in, opening products, doing all kinds of stuff, doing giveaways. That was more fun, I'm sure. This, I don't know.
We wandered over there when Gronk got on stage.
Gronk, that was a big draw.
Saturday.
Sure. Yeah.
And I lasted all of about 5 minutes of that.
Right. It's not for us.
Couldn't take it. Apparently, he pulled a Brady auto. Shocker.
Yeah, I'm sure that was not
Yeah, definitely not set up.
No.
There was, I wandered into the whatnot area accidentally, and I was like overwhelmed by. It's like you're hit with like all this like bright light all of a sudden. That's like just all these screens and stuff. But it was funny because like I told Clemente, I'm like, hey, could you cover my booth? I gotta run to the upper deck booth really quick, and it was like a good 5 minute walk because you have to navigate through people, and which a lot of times they walk slow, and that's okay, but sometimes you're just like, I just gotta get around this one guy pulling his suitcase, and um
Sorry.
I wandered into the whatnot area, and I was just like, like blinded by the light, and it felt like it felt like something out of like a cyberpunk movie. Like it was like
If you've
Blade
never been
Runner.
to Vegas and been in a sports book, that's what the Whatnot stage looked like. It
And
looked
that's
like
exactly, and that with the multiple screens, that's
I didn't
intentional.
like it. I didn't like it. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just like it was just like I'm not overstimulated. Like I used to in my 20s, I used to love going to the clubs with the strobe lights and the smoke machines and stuff like that. It was just cool. Like that was just freaking cool, right? Like I loved all those different like things going on, right? That to me that was cool. Um I'm not saying I aged out of it. I just think this is excessive. I mean, I probably aged out of it too, but I think it's just excessive for cardboard. Like, oh my god, like what's going on here? And I like
it's
that.
not about the cardboard. It's not about the cardboard anymore.
Okay.
It's just not. They're selling an experience. They're selling an event.
It's a show. Yeah.
Yep.
What? I can't find this song, but I'm trying to find this song. I know I've been Googling it for like the past 2 minutes trying to figure out what it is. It like starts with drums and it like beat builds up and then it's like tear down the walls. Tear down the wall. You know what I'm talking? You know that song?
It wasn't that Chris Jericho's entrance theme in wrestling.
Could have been. Very well could have been. But I don't know. I didn't really know his maybe I'll Google that. But what there was something going on and they would like I don't know if it was a break or a pack rip or something, but they would like I'd hear like the drums going and then they'd stop. Or the drums would go all the way and then people would start shouting and then they'd get to the lyric, tear down the walls. And I don't know what it was. I never figured out what it was over 5 days, but it was super annoying. And I told one of the dealers next to me, I said, I hope I never hear that song again because it's like just hearing the opening drums and then like if they hit something everybody starts screaming and I think one time I just shouted it's just cardboard people and people around me started laughing because it's just so ludicrous how people lose their shit over cards. I mean, I get it. I've pulled a good card too and have been like super happy about it. But it's like people are like super extra happy about it because they feel like they have to play it up for the camera. And that's what becomes bothersome. But then it's like they also have to fuel that with like this music and carnival barking and all this other stuff that I just wish I didn't have to put up with. Like, especially since I can't go hide in the back room or go in like a sensory deprivation chamber or something.
Well, look, it's all part of the hype machine. But at the National a couple of years ago in Cleveland, this room also had dealers in it, and that was really not a good experience. So if they're gonna have their own space, give it to them. And if I have to cut through there because it's less crowded, then so be it. It's not going away, is what I'm saying, though. It's just if it's not going away,
No.
give it its own
Nope.
space. And
No.
let's
If
move on.
anything, it's about to get worse.
Well, it may bleed over into the normal parts of the show for sure. Because at Fanatics Fest, for example, every booth, every activation, every section has got music going. At least at the National, where you were, for example, Sal,
Mhm.
you didn't really hear music playing, but there's music playing everywhere at Fanatics Fest. And so that could happen here. We don't know. At some point, you know, Fanatics is definitely, has their secret hand, and we saw Michael Rubin walking around the showroom, so he's obviously there. He's curious about what goes on at other shows. He wants to see what his people are doing, and he wants to see. I'm sure he's got to realize, hey, what we're doing in New York, people are copying that, and for better or worse, they are. And so, I mean, the crowd on Saturday to me reminded me of Fanatics Fest on Saturday. Like both Saturdays were equally crazy, equally loud, equally, sort of frenzied, and that kind of that's become the new normal, I think, at these shows.
So on Thursday, we went out to dinner with other podcasters, and somebody. Oh, it was funny. We're at Giordano's Pizzeria, and this guy was like walking around with the camera, and he's like, "Hey, you want me to take your picture?" We're
Well,
like,
first of all, we should say he worked at Giordano's. He wasn't just a guy with a camera. He worked there.
he worked at Giordano's.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you want us to take your picture?" And Clemente's like, "Well, Sal's in the bathroom," because I'm always in the bathroom when something good happens, right? So he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll come back." He
Right.
comes back. He takes our picture. Then he comes back like 20 minutes later with prints, and he's like, they're $20 each or 2 for 30.
Right.
And we're like, we're just like, no thanks. Like, I don't know. It was just like, hey, Clemente, you want to spend $20 on a photo with you and some randos that you just met? I mean, you know me and you know Drew, but
Yeah.
everybody else at the table you just met.
Yeah.
So the people that walk around and hand out roses and they want you to pay them $50 for them.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was.
exactly.
Yeah.
I used to
it
get
felt-
that all the time when I'd leave the clubs with my girlfriend, and they'd be like, "Hey, you want to buy your girlfriend flowers?" It's like, no, we're stumbling home drunk. Thank you very much. Like, or you want us to take your picture? I'm like, why?
Like, I want no record of this. Get out of here.
It was.
It was like the Polaroid too. They're like, we'll take your Polaroid picture right now. I'm like, yeah, I want a Polaroid picture of me drunk with.
Yeah, just shake it and rub it against your shirt, and it'll come out in about a minute. No, this was a great meetup with TTM Cast, and I also appear on that podcast on occasion. So it was great to have Drew and Aaron get together. It was fun. But yeah, we also live in a world where everyone can take their own photo. Like this photo was taken, by Drew's wife with a phone, and then it doesn't have it doesn't have a Giordano's frame, paper frame,
or that cardboard jacket that it came in. Yeah.
It doesn't have the cardboard jacket. I think we'll live, but it was fun.
How will you ever know where the picture was taken?
Which is gonna, I don't know.
There's 5 pizza boxes that say Giordano's on them right on the table.
Exactly. There's a few clues here. I don't know. There's a few hints. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun to talk to people about the hobby, because the truth is, at the show themselves, inside the convention hall, it's hard to talk to people because it's so busy and frenzied, and you're looking to buy and sell and whatever. So it's nice at the end of the day to say, okay, we sat down, and it wasn't at a trade night. And I know that people listening to the podcast know that we're not big fans of trade night, because trade night is not about trading. It's not about friendship or camaraderie. It's basically this wet market of trading cards that goes on. I mean, people literally leave the National.
They get COVID there too, but
they leave the National. But they all leave the National, and then they get back online to get back into trade night. It's like a joke. And
if there's one thing that we do well, it's make cultural references that are timely.
Yes.
So that's what that is. So this was nice there were no cards traded here. No one tried to sell me anything other than the guy trying to sell me a photo of Giordano's. But other than that, there wasn't any bartering or brokering here. It was just people getting together, and people in this picture are all, content creators, dealers, podcasters. It was fun to talk about, stuff. And it was nice to do something social, in addition to, because for me, a big part of the National is socializing. And so I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and like when I would go to the National as a collector, and I made the decision to go for all 5 days, I would try to socialize. Like if I met somebody and I was talking to them, I wasn't like looking at my watch like, oh, I only got today to look through all these tables. I was like, I'll be here for 5 days. I can talk to somebody for 20 minutes or a half an hour. You know what I mean? And like it was like Tim, I remember like when you would bring your boys when they were younger, and Jess would come and bring her boy, and we'd all hang out, and then we'd go into like the VIP lounge back when it was just like a room with like maybe 12 tables, but it was quiet in there. And like and then we would just sit around and trade cards, and I'd bring like a box of cookies for the kids, and that was some good times. You know what I mean? Like and that
When you could
I,
actually chill in the VIP lounge instead of it being an extension of where everybody else was setting up their free tables to sell things.
Yeah, exactly. That's where trade night takes place, but also during the day there's trading. So whatever.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. But I'm
trade
just
night
saying,
where nobody's trading and everybody's just buying and selling.
buying and trying to one up each other. But we would hang out and like socialize, and that was nice. I wasn't like, well, sorry, Tim, can't hang out with you because I gotta go do this thing. Because if anything, you were the one who had less time because you'd usually just come for one day, so you would carve out the time to hang out with me. And this was before we did the podcast. This was like years before we did the show.
Well, and like I said, I only was able to come Saturday this time. I mean, I could have came Sunday, but after Saturday, I wasn't about to deal with that on another day. And, you know, we lost easily 2 hours of the show time. And the fact that it was as busy as it was, we ended up not being able to see a ton of it. And really, the only amount of time that we were able to spend looking at tables and going from like booth to booth and seeing what people had and maybe looking through some boxes and stuff was from 4 to 6. That's it. Because by about 3:30, place cleared out big time on
Yeah.
Saturday. And so we could actually move and we could go to a table. We could see what people had. We could talk to a dealer. We could talk to other people. Prior to that, forget it.
You know what's interesting is that Tim, all the years I've known you, and we've been to the national, you come both days. And the fact that you came only one day and that I left, I couldn't wait to leave on Sunday, is a testament to how unwieldy the show is. Parts of it have become that it's fun, it's great, but it's also like, maybe it's too much of a good thing here, and I can't be everywhere, and I'm not really enjoying it, and I'm not going to see anything, and I don't want to battle crowds, and maybe I don't need to be here a second day, or I need to be here a fifth day. Like actually, on my way home, I kept pondering, if I go back next year, do I go for the full 5? Do I go for 3? Is Sunday worth it? Like things like that, you start to think about because the show's becoming bigger and bigger every year. The upstairs got bigger, and it was very crowded the whole time. And next year it could get bigger upstairs because there's still some room between where the dealers were and the main stage that got moved upstairs. And they had this exhibit, which was not strange, but an exhibit about the history of the national history of collecting, which again is another Fanatics Fest type innovation, which is like, hey, you may not know anything about sports cards. If this is your first time here, we want to educate you on it. That kind of thing.
Did you see that? Did you look at that?
I did look through it and it was well put together. And they even had a whole room of nationals collectibles. So like collectibles of promoting the national, like the 9th edition, the 10th edition, like they had pennants and pins. And so, and to see just how old this get together really is. And then they had a whole history of baseball cards, Thomas Wagner, and they go through the years, the junk wax era. It was cool. But what I'm saying is there's space up there for even more dealers if they want it next year. And that doesn't mean that there's more space for us. It means more people will come. They'll fill it more. I think that's the best solution because ultimately you want to go to a show where you can see things. If I can't see things, then why am I here?
And see, this is what the conversation has then steered towards. You got people that have gone for so many years and people that are on the collecting side rather than the entertainment side of things.
They see a difference.
And yeah, you definitely see a difference and you see it shifting. So it's like every year that it's in Chicago, which was always every other year, as much as I like the Stevenson Center, or the Stevenson Center, the Stevens Convention Center, as much as I like that area, I mean, is it too small to contain this now?
Mm, yeah.
Like, if the upstairs area, so I didn't get up there, so I didn't see how big it was, but I know last year that little confined, cattle stall that they had everybody shoved in. Okay, even if they doubled the size of that, I don't
It,
know. If it
they
looked
almost
anything like last year, it still wouldn't have been enough
I think
room.
they almost tripled it because it was like 6 rows by 6. Not
Okay, so
so
even triple it,
yeah.
you still don't even cover the square footage that's upstairs.
No, it
Well,
was
and they also added corporate booths
they
upstairs.
yeah, they
So
had
they added more dealer tables and they added more corporate booths. And I will say this.
Oh, where else do you put it then? If you've outgrown that building, do you go back to McCormick Place?
Well, I'd hate that. I
I mean,
think a
a
lot of
lot of
people
people do hate it, but it's a heck of a lot bigger.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, or you or you have to really or I mean, here's a couple of things. Just a couple of thoughts that I'll throw out there, especially since actually, I'm going to go to the next slide because I want to talk about being a dealer, and actually this kind of just ties in with all of that. So, last year I want to say there were there was was it two the upstairs you had like your tables that were back to back and more tables that were back to back, and then you had like one single row of tables on the outside, so you had like one
right.
two
Two and
three
a half.
four five six,
Right.
so you had like 6 rows of tables.
Yep.
And you didn't really have corporate stuff up there, and you had a lot of wasted space. This year, Clemente, were there more tables upstairs than last year?
There were a lot more tables than
Yes. Now, when I was doing the booth selection last year for this year, I didn't have any priority because the previous nationals that I did, I set up with AU Sports. So I was basically like crashing on their couch. So I didn't have my name on the lease. I was just like hanging out there. Okay. So that doesn't actually count. I don't have any seniority. So last year, I show up and they're just like, "Yeah, we don't have any space for you. We'll let you know in 6 weeks." And I was thinking, okay, maybe they're going to expand their footprint upstairs, and that's what they ended up doing. And then they even expanded their footprint downstairs with more tables, like you guys pointed out. It was just a walkway area that they added tables to. I lucked into a table downstairs, and I think it's because they had like they had dealers with like two tables, two tables, two tables, and two tables. But in between these dealers and this dealer and this other dealer, there was like one single table between them. So I think that's just where they stuck me. And I'm not actually, I wasn't complaining. I was happy to be not upstairs. But I was thinking, because they didn't tell me till January, you have a table and it's downstairs. So I waited 6 months not knowing will I be in the national for 2026. And then I found out that I was. Um, I will be in for 2027, and they did another lottery. And I guess just as long as I'm on this topic, I'll say this. I show up Sunday morning at 7:15, fill out the paperwork. They didn't actually start the lottery till 8 o'clock, and then they bring us in a room, and then they just basically said there are 200 dealers who want a single table, because we all had done one national, so we were all a one. And you do two nationals, then you're a two. You do 46 nationals, you're a 46. So obviously you get more priority. So we're all ones here. And they say we got 200 dealers who want a table, and we only have 50 tables. And then they start calling out names. And I'm thinking, all right, I got a 1 in 4 chance of getting a table, right? 25%. I mean, that's good. That's not great, but it's not like 1 in 20. You know what I mean? So every time they call up a name, I do a little tick mark. I was just keeping a tally. And then the people around me were looking at me and they're like, how many names have they called? I'm like, they called 31 names. I'm like, oh, okay, right? And go through. And then after 10, they'd pause and they'd say, all right, we're going to pause, because there'd be like a line of people at the big board looking to see what was left, the big map in the front, and then selecting which booth they wanted. So then finally with the 40th overall pick, I got picked. 40th. went up there, and I didn't
Didn't
like.
have Justin Bieber call your name?
No, and
And
you know what?
say,
I didn't scream
Sal
like a
Berry, we
little.
would like to draft you to the national.
Yeah, no, and I didn't scream like a little girl scream like a little girl either. I just, when I heard my name called, I just said, "Ooh, that's me," and I stood up and I walked over. The guy handed me the card with my name. He said, "Go stand at the board. Go tell him what booth you want." And table 58 was taken, so I'm like, "All right, I'll take table 46." And they're like, "Okay, go over there and pay." I handed them my card. They wrote 46 on it. I paid, and that was it. So, it was. So I'll be back next year. Um, this year was a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, this was the first time I was. It was like my own actual booth. You'll see behind me in one of the pictures. There's a cardboard sign that says Puck Junk that they actually printed up that had like my booth number on it, and that was stapled to the front of the table. And at first, I'm like, well, I don't need this. I should have left it on the front of the table, but I put my own tablecloth on it, so it would have been covered anyways. So I took it off and I put it up there. Not that it matters, but it was kind of nice because I also had my Puck Junk banner. And if they didn't see that, they'd see the other things. So I tried to be visible. A lot of people just said, "Oh, we saw the starting lineups," and we knew that it was your booth because I had some hockey starting lineups on a shelf behind my table. So Clemente took some pictures of me being a card dealer, which is nice because it's hard to take a selfie when you're like dealing. And also I take terrible selfies anyway. But like I don't have a production crew like some people. Like, we're gonna make a deal at the national. Let's find out how we do. Oh, let's shake on it, right?
But by the way, this was something I noticed a couple of
And
times.
that's why no one listens to the show.
Right.
Oh,
Because
I noticed this happen a couple of times where people would make a deal and then they would like line up all the hundreds on the dealer table and put the cards in the middle and take a picture of it. And I was like, what is that? And
That's
so
how
it's
normal transactions take place in capitalism, right?
I guess so. It was more it was and that they're gonna post that somewhere on Instagram. So I don't know. It was a lot of stuff is done to be seen, but no, I hung out a lot with Sal, so I got to see him in action, and I took some pictures. And yes, you'll be at the National next year. You have a table there, but that wait list looks like it's getting longer and longer. And I think the wild card will be when they leave this space, when they go to Detroit in 2 years. Is that place bigger? Is it smaller? Is it comparable? I have no idea. And so that'll be interesting to see when that lottery happens. Next year's lottery will be very interesting because I want to see that map for 2028. What does that look like? I know it's 2 years out, but given how big this thing is becoming and so quickly, with no, doesn't look like it's gonna recede anytime soon. This bubble isn't bursting, at least not yet. I'm curious to see what happens.
this convention center has ballrooms that are carpeted, and they should use those for the autographs. But
Yeah.
they probably, I don't know. I mean, they should, but they probably won't because they probably like the way things are because uh,
They have a system. I
they
mean, they've
have a
been,
system
yeah.
and that would buck the system. But I know that like when I'd go to the anime convention, they would have um they would have ballrooms for like autographs or panel discussions, and that was nice because you'd be standing on carpet and it was quieter because you didn't have that constant noise from the show. You would just go in and just people in
Well,
line for the
yeah,
autograph. So it
yeah.
was
The other,
calmer.
yeah, the other main issue. I spent most of Saturday at TriStar. That was the one day I really spent at the autographs. The way it's set up there, they have those big curtains where the athletes, the talent is behind the curtains and they emerge when they're called upon. If you have these athletes walking through hallways to get to ballrooms without having that privacy, they're gonna get mobbed because they're gonna think it's one of these like Fanatics Fest type. Oh, they're walking Derek Jeter down the hall. I guess it must be, to be seen. It's like, no, he needs to get to a ballroom to sign autographs. It said right now, the public doesn't really get past the table. And I will say the security around the signers was bigger this year. Like they had cops there with guns like lined up. They were very strict about once you get something signed, you got to move on. Like you can't linger here. And I never saw it quite that efficient, but also that tight. So, which makes total sense. I mean, let's be honest. At Fanatics Fest, whenever I've gone through metal detectors. There's none of that here. None of that. So security here it's good, but if you're a celebrity, you want to know that there's police here probably because your safety could be at risk. So it's very, very different. Things are getting as they get more popular and bigger. You need more security and more control. And this year, I at the national, I noticed that there was a lot more concern for that. And so the ballrooms would be great, but I think getting the athletes in and out of those ballrooms can get a little bit weird. And if you go to those ballrooms, I mean, I was walking around there because, frankly, it was the only clean place to use a bathroom. I'll be honest. And with the media pass, I got access to those areas. A lot of those ballrooms are sealed off for Topps and Beckett, and the different companies have space to do whatever they got to do, right? To have meetings, to hang out, to be quiet, whatever. It's a very busy show. So that would be taking that away from those people as well. But look, we'll see. I just don't think the show can get any bigger because, Tim was there on Saturday. Saturday was crazy. I have to think that given the weather, some people actually decided not to go. Imagine it had been a sunny day. What would have happened then? People would have been waiting outside because I'm sure at some point the fire marshal would have been like, I think you're at capacity here. You can't get past. I don't know what the capacity is, but I'm sure at some point they would have said, look, when someone leaves, someone could come in.
Right. Oh, man, that would be awkward as hell.
Yeah. You should be paid a ticket.
Lucky I'm behaving and I'm keeping my mouth shut.
No, go. You should go ahead and talk about because it's look. We've all heard the phrase "too much of a good thing," right?
Yeah.
Maybe this is becoming that. Parts of it are. I mean, I always consider the national. It's becoming a lot of mini shows within a bigger show. Like there's the national, then there is these other little sub cultures that are emerging in our hobby, and they're all full display in public at the national. That's what it is.
I don't know if it's so much of a subculture as a schism between
maybe
the flipper whatnot culture on one side and then the old school card collectors. And I don't necessarily mean old, I just mean old school.
Meaning the style that you collect, by which you collect.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the guys who want to complete their 1959 Topps baseball set, right?
Those guys are there.
They're there, but they're not the ones going to the Whatnot booth.
No.
And Whatnot doesn't care about those guys. They're not trying to include those guys. They're more about like the 16-year-old kid with the bro case or the 25-year-old dealer who only deals in graded cards. You know what I mean? That's their demographic. I learned a long time ago that I could not cater to the demographic that was only looking for the really high-end cards because I'd be spending a lot of money up front for a card that wouldn't have a lot of markup. And then as the winds change, so did their desire for that card. So if I luck into something like that, great. But otherwise, I'm not going to go and buy a Celebrini Young Gun that's a $500 card and try to get it for $400 so that some flipper can try to get it for $450. You know what I mean? Like it's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? You're not making a lot of money if you're just chasing what everybody else is chasing. So anyways, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now, but yeah, I feel it's more like a schism. I mean, you could say it's a subculture. I'm not disagreeing with you, and maybe there are other. I feel like collecting always has its subcultures. I mean, you could even say hockey collecting is its own subculture because hockey collectors are different than football collectors. Yeah, hockey and baseball seem to be more similar in like you have like set builders, whereas with like baseball and basketball, it's not really about building sets. It's about just chasing. Football, it's like getting quarterbacks and maybe numbered cards, and basketball, best players and numbered cards, maybe. I don't know, rookie cards. We could debate that another time, but yeah, I don't know. Tim, you said you were being nice. Here, be mean. You can be mean with this wonderful portrait of the three of us at the National.
Those are some handsome looking guys right there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the one time a year we all get together in the same room. So
this is going on my fridge.
It's always good to be fridge worthy at some point. But yeah, but Tim, don't hold back. This is the moment.
This is it. I have the floor for the next 8 minutes.
Yeah, I mean we're winding down this episode, so I mean it's like now.
Look, we've touched on many of the things that I have and that I take issue with and take exception to. And I think people know my sentiments of how I feel about the hobby and how I hobby myself as a person and how I treat, this space, right? I don't think I've ever made that like a mystery, right?
No, people know where you stand.
Yes. Neither Fanatics Fest or the National is for collectors. There may have been a time where the National was, but neither of them are anymore. If you're not a high roller, you're not the audience. And this is the way things are going. Last year was probably the death knell for the National to be somewhat subdued compared to the other stuff. This year, completely off the hook. Or what do the kids say? Off the chain. It was off the chain. Do they say that anymore? Do kids even say that anymore? I don't know. I heard them say it once years ago, so I'm going to say it again. I'm bringing it back. It was off the chain when it comes to that kind of stuff. And like we mentioned already, I predicted a million things to try to be better than they were last year. And they did. They absolutely did. One of those was doing the activation type things for all of their drops instead of go out on the floor and buy whatever things you want. Bring them back here. You get a redemption. No. It was pay attention to all of our social media, scan our QR codes, go do this, go do that. And every 2 hours, we're going to tell you, go on a wild goose chase and find this and then bring it back here. And if you can get back here in 10 minutes, you'll get a pack. Because if you wait any longer than that, you're not getting crap. And
also every pack had an autograph in it.
Yeah. And they just kept rolling that and rolling it and going over and over again. So yeah, this is something completely different. Okay. That's number one. Number two, people are obsessed, absolutely freaking obsessed with pricing. Obsessed. Past the point of this is just, I want this card for my collection. How much is it? It's beyond that. It's a complete obsession. They use Card Ladder like it's a Bible, and everyone forgets that Card Ladder is loaded with pricing manipulation and shill bidding because it pulls all the crap from eBay's regular listing services and those types of things. Yet these would be the same people that would be at the front of the line criticizing anybody back in the day of using a Beckett price guide, and it's the same dang thing. If more people used like Terapeak, for instance, I probably wouldn't care as much because that at least pulls verified paid closures of sales. But that's not cool because it doesn't have its own app. And Terapeak doesn't have its own booth. And it's not giving crap away and giving people stress balls and download our app and you get this free pack of cards and all this stuff because there's no clout involved with it. And now it's just a tool that's part of the seller tools and eBay. So anybody can use it and it's free if you sell on eBay, and it's not awesome because it's actual verifiable data. It's nuts to me. It's absolutely nuts because it takes away all of the collecting part of it. And it just becomes this thing, like Sal said, everybody come up, are you buying? Are you buying? Are you buying? So many tables with these giant signs, buying strong, paying heavy, paying 80 to 90%. Yet every booth and every group of people and conversation I heard talking about that very thing they were doing none of those things because it was specific cards that they were looking for, and that was it. There were like 5 or 6 cards that everybody wanted. I know that's the case because once we were able to navigate the floor and start going booth to booth, it got quite monotonous walking from table to table and seeing the same cards in every case over and over and over again, each time being priced slightly higher than the next, maybe slightly lower than the one before, but all of those prices were 30 to 50% higher than what you thought they were supposed to be in the first place. So it comes no surprise that those content creators that are all out there with their lights and cameras and crazy music and everything else, all they did on all their feeds and socials and videos is brag about the deals that they made and the great prices. And when every collector that's out there on the floor that I ran into that recognized me or we had a conversation, they were all flabbergasted by the fact that the sticker prices on these tables were so high. So many cases teeming with 4-figure plus cards. So overpriced or not, I am not the demographic. And at this point, I think many of the listeners that listen to our show, to your point earlier, Clemente, are not the demographic either because they're more of the collector type. Sure. Do you dabble in the every occasional once in a while, the $1,000 card here and there? Sure. But you can't make a living off of that building a collection per se. I mean, that has to be an end game or you're getting out of for some reason because it's so high. And the market has so much more activity because of that. There's so much of this manipulation of the prices and all of these, as you said, performative transactions, because that's what these are. Performative. Because what are we really good at right now in this hobby? Like really good at? We're really good at putting a price on attention. We've lost all semblance of what the actual pricing should be, what the overall historical significance should be of things, what the asset permanence in a long-term scale should be, or what real life non-manufactured or non-manipulated scarcity is. We don't know what any of that is anymore because half of what you see, well, probably even more than half of what you see on social media is fake. It's staged for entertainment purposes. The whole entertainment aspect, it's all formulaic and it's staged for content. It's sellers selling to each other the same cards over and over and over again. It's these inflated transactions just to kind of flex at a table with all, like you said, flapping down $100 bills. It's theater. Some would say it's art, but it's theater. So don't conflate that with the hobby itself because it's not. This is the business aspect of it. There's a few folks out there, and in the grand scheme, it's really only a few, even though there's hundreds. But there's a few people out there that are kind of in the driver's seat of all this creative content and crap. And they latch onto these followable trends and they throw it out there on social media. And the worst part is they've sucked in so many others that they can just replace all of this research and historical aspects of everything and all of that. They eliminate the conviction that people had as collectors chasing players and teams and specific cards and all of that kind of stuff. And they've replaced it with these theatrical performances that essentially manufactures all the perceived market momentum. So it's like you're pushing these prices like through the roof because you got all these big names out there with these big time pockets jumping in, pushing prices of certain cards into these multi-million dollar echelons, and they're creating these financial conglomerates amongst themselves and bringing in silent investors and offering fractional ownerships of cards and claiming that trading cards have become some kind of safe and solid alternative asset and all this kind of stuff. And they continue to make money because all the people that are following them, they've created enough attention to make those that constantly hang on everything that their celebrity that they chose to follow says, as Sal brought up, as the wind blows, so do they. So if this guy tells you go out and buy this card because it's the greatest card ever and that's what he's collecting, that's what you're going to go buy because you're following that. So no serious investor, like somebody that's in the stock market and doing that no serious investor is going to go and take all their money and park it in an industry that's completely unserious about itself. And those breaker pavilions, that tells you it's unserious. It really is. It's unserious. And so, the vast majority of us exist outside this realm, yet all the content we're being force fed is 50, 100, $150,000 deals of cash being laid down and people ripping $10,000, $20,000, products, wax products, and everybody's hitting one of ones and autograph cards and these things that nobody would ever imagine they would ever get. It's not real. It's not. It's comical. It's crazy. So all these big events, they've become this giant circus, and they have the big top, and they have the clowns, and they have the sideshows, and they have the rigged games in the arcade, and they have the overpriced food and the souvenirs. They have all of that. And the circus is run by the ringmasters, and we have lots of those, and they yell and they scream and they put on a show. But in the end, it doesn't matter what circus you're watching. They're all basically the same. Nothing's unique. The cards aren't unique. The opinions of all these people aren't unique. The substance of their content isn't unique. They're all flexing the same things, the same cards, the same money, the same everything. And Fanatics Fest came out of the gate. I mean, you were at all of them, Clemente. You reported on all of them. I mean, they never made bones about what they were. They didn't make excuses. They said what they were right off the bat. The National is now becoming that glorified content creation center to make your deals so you can get your clicks and film it. Hey, bro, I'll buy this card for $20,000 at your booth, and we can film it, and then I'll throw $50,000 on the table, and we'll pretend it's that much. And then tomorrow you come to my booth, and we'll buy a different card, and we'll do the same transaction. You'll get clicks, and I'll get clicks, and here we go. And we've hit this point where there's this disconnect. I mean, Sal, you brought it up. There's a disconnect. There's this performative aspect of the industry over here. They're putting on a show. Then there's the reality of the rest of the hobby. And there's this deep fissure, I think, that's separating the two sides. And there's little actual realistic and engaging, measurable content and commentary out there that's really healthy for the hobby. It's either this over-the-top hype or it's completely contrarian, destructive, which I get blamed to be a lot. But I'm really not. There's just very little objective criticism, and there's no unsolicited praise because everybody wants the clout and they want to get paid by their sponsors, and they don't want their allocations to be shut off by certain companies. And they can just put out things, and whether it's predicated on bad choices or not, the whole thing gets overshadowed by integrity and trust and the lack of it. So I didn't hate the show. I liked the show. The energy was insane. It was busy as I've ever seen it. Do I think the hobby's healthy? In some ways, yeah. I think the industry portion, the machine portion of it is definitely healthy. I don't know how sustainable this is. So when you say you don't think the bubble's going to pop, I don't know about that. Because how much further it can go? How many more $11 million cards can we have sold every other month? Or 12 million? Or 10 million? Like how? Like where does this end? Because none of us can participate in that. All those people that were jamming those hallways and packing the floor and everything else, I bet 90% of those people aren't in that market. They can't compete in that market. They can't participate in that market. It's fun to watch. Everybody likes a circus. The elephants are kind of smelly, but
Yeah, but I agree with everything you said. But I think the top 1%, there's people that aspire to that though. It's aspirational to them, so they're trying in their own little way to. I mean, I was spending a lot of time at Sal's table. It was interesting to see the different people we're talking about going to his table. You can tell when somebody was going there to buy a card or look at cards for his PC compared to, it's almost like a caricature. It's like He's like probably a little older, dressed like us, has a conversation with Sal about the hobby, about hockey cards, and then there's people with the bro case. Hi, do you have this card? No, okay, thanks. And they run off somewhere else. It's like, whoa, we share the
Are
same
you
space.
buying? You want to look in here?
Yeah, you buying, and then they pull out whatever they pull out. And it's like, wow, this is like a very different experience.
Dude, these 4 cards in here are worth more than my entire house.
Right? Or like all the
Not
cards I own in the
always.
showcase. Not always,
Right.
but they're all trying to dump a Bedard Young Guns gun, or they try to dump like a card that they, clearly, and Sal can talk about this. There were definitely people that had gotten some kind of card, some kind of crazy deal or trade at trade night. They didn't want that card. Now they're looking to pawn it off on somebody, and they're like, "Who's got hockey here? Oh, Sal does. Let's go to him." And maybe, Sal would look at it. He wasn't always obviously buying because
The problem is that if they have one card they want to unload, I want a sweetheart deal. I mean, unless it's a great card and I don't expect that. But if it's just like a random thing, like a couple of years back, it was in Atlantic City. Somebody came to me with a card, and it was a specific card, and they said, I got this in a blind box. I don't know anything about hockey, but I kind of looked it up. And he's like, I want $100 for this. And I looked at the card and I said, I could sell this for more than $100. And I said, that's what you want? He's like, yep. He goes, I just want to be able to buy some baseball. He says, I'd make back the money I spent and maybe a couple dollars, or maybe just wanted to break even and start over. Like, he bought a box, it had a hockey card in it. He's like, I don't need this. He saw I had hockey. I bought it off of him. He was happy. I threw in something else for his collection, a baseball card that he was eyeing, and he was happy. I was happy. I turned around. I sold the card later in the show. And the guy who bought it off of me was so happy that he sent me a direct message on X. And he told me how this card was going to be the cornerstone of his collection because it had a jersey and it had a piece of patch on it, right? So everybody was happy with that deal, right? And so I made money, the guy made money, and the guy who bought the card ultimately got a card that he was very happy to have. I'd have somebody come up to my table and he's like, I have a hockey card for sale. Do you want to see it? I'm like, what is it? It was a Rasmus Dahlin Young Gun PSA 10. Okay, PSA 10, good. Rasmus Dahlin, good player. Rasmus Dahlin PSA 10 Young Gun card, probably not going to set the hobby on fire. Could we agree on that?
Yes, no one's asking for that card.
Right. So I say, what do you want for it? And he's like, well, it counts for 150. So, all right, already right there, I know that this is going nowhere. He goes, it counts for 150. I'm like, so what would you sell it to me for? He's like, 150. And I go, well, how do I make money? And he's like, well, I'll sell it to you for 140. And I said, so I'm only going to make $10 on this transaction, but I got to spend 140. He goes, all right, I'll do 130. And I'm like, then I'm only making $20. I said, and I'm from Chicago, and no one's asking me for Rasmus Dahlin cards. And it, like, when I said to him, I'd have to spend 120 or 130 to make $20, and it's a really bad return on my investment. He looked at me like I was speaking Greek. Like, he wasn't offended. He just didn't understand, like, what I was saying. Like, all of a sudden, I was discussing quantum physics with him, and he kind of gave me this blank look. So then I directed him to a dealer who was from around Buffalo. And I thought, okay, well, if this dealer really wants the card, he'd negotiate for it. And if he didn't want the card, he wouldn't feel like awkward about telling him no or whatever. That was the thing though, Tim, is that like a lot of people would want close to full comps for the cards they were selling, or they'd come to me with a very specific card. Like, I think I had 2 people offer me Jack Hughes Young Guns PSA 10s. And I'm like, nice card, good player. We're past the Olympics. The luster's worn off a little bit. And I don't know if someone is going to want a Jack Hughes PSA 10 from me when I do my next show in Chicago in November. Or they had like a lot of like junk that they wanted to sell. Even like some of the things in track. Like, a guy had a Patrick Kane autograph. It was signed in gold. and it was from a set. It could have been from the cup. It's a thick card. And I'm like, what do you want for the card? And I flip it over and he put a post-it note on the back and it had 650 written on it. He's like, well, it's comping at 650. I'm like, 650? Like, Patrick Kane is a great player, but he's not a $650 autograph. Like, he signs enough cards for product that he's not, other than like, if you get to his Future Watch auto, yeah, probably. I know I was bidding on some of those before a year or two ago, and they were like topping out at like 550. Maybe it's gone up since then. Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, people who were
650 on something like that he normally comps lower on most of the stuff. It's, I mean, really, it's, you're paying for the branding. So if it's the cup, I mean, right there, you've taken a premium, and then if it's low serial numbered, there's your other premium. So, I mean, that kind of thing, okay, fine. I at least understand it to some extent.
right.
But the dichotomy of the people that you're describing, you got the couple people that are coming up to you and you know they're collecting because they're collectors. And clearly, you know, they send you thank you notes and things like that based off of the stuff that they get from you. The other guys that just show up with the one random PSA 10 Rasmus Dahlin or Jack Hughes and they have no other hockey, obviously not collectors. They're unloading a piece that somehow they came about it.
Right. And then kind of going to the double standard, you had people complaining on social media, oh, dealers are selling their cards at 1, 2, 3 times the comps. Well, 1 time the comps means they're selling it for what you think it's worth, right? But they're complaining about that because we don't want to sell it for less than what we think we could sell it for. But then on the same token, when they're selling to a dealer, they want that full comp price. And it's like, well, then how do I make money on this?
And this is why I started my whole rant with
Right.
the obsession over pricing. It's just obsessive.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
well
It really
beyond the
is.
point of it actually making sense from a budgetary standpoint. Like it's long past that point, and it's gotten to the point of it's just comedy.
It's like one-upmanship. It's like some people really get off on negotiating and feeling like they wore you down and got a better deal. But now everybody, and this is something that I noticed with the younger generation. I don't want to say the younger generation, and I don't want to say kids and sound like an old man, but I mean kids. Let's say that like 13 to 22 range, like that range.
Those are still kids to me.
Oh yeah, I get it, but they want to do this thing where they throw out a number and then they thrust their hand out at me like they want to shake my hand, and almost like they think that like reflectively I'm going to say yes, or just reflectively grab their hand and shake it just because they threw their hand out after they give me a lowball offer. And I mean, I had one guy,
You
and
should
you know
start
what?
putting a sticker in their hand.
Well, I had like what joy buzzer, bzzz, right? I had one guy offer me. He wanted like whatever the number, and I'm not going to get super specific about any of these. One guy offered me like 20% less, and I just said no, thank you. And I said, look, I'll take 10% off. I said I think 10% off is fair. You can't do this? No, I'm sorry, I can't. Oh, really? You can't do this? No. He's like, come on, how about this? And he throws out his hand. Like every time he asked me, he put his hand out, like and it's just
I feel like that's a nervous tick or something.
it might be,
It's
but
weird.
I had another guy, like young man, and he agreed on the price, and we shook on it, and that's fine. But I don't know why we have to shake. When I go to Target and I buy shoes, I don't buy my shoes at Target, bad example. When I buy a t-shirt at Target, I don't shake the cashier's hand and say, thank you for this t-shirt, right? Like, and it was weird because I was getting a lot of that, not only with the people who were negotiating the price, or I'd say, okay, I'll do this much, and they agreed to it, but even like one kid, one young man, it was like 2 cards. It came to $30, and I said $30, and he said, and he pulled out the money, and I took the money and I handed him his cards, And he goes to shake my hand, and it caught me off guard because it was like, well, we didn't negotiate. It's not like we agreed to a price. I just said $30, please, and he handed me the $30. I had another young man, and it was like,
This is all part of the content creation stuff.
yeah, yes, that's
Yeah,
what
they're seeing this on on YouTube.
So they're
Just like
imitating.
laying all the money out so you can take a picture of it. The shaking the hands is part of the deal. It's all part of the spectacle.
Right, but the other thing is that like the other transaction, the young man was like, it was like 3 cards for $30, and he said, "Would you take 25?" And I said, "Yeah, you read my mind. I was going to offer you that." And he's like, "Cool." And then like I took his money, and then he went to shake my hand after the fact, and it just caught me like it wasn't even a negotiation. He just said, "Would you take this?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I don't get this whole handshaking thing all of a sudden. Is this like
I don't mind it. Common courtesy, being nice. Okay, cool. But I know better, and I know it's part of the performance. They think this is how they're supposed to act. You
right? Because
bring your
that's what
case, you walk up to the table, you ask if they're buying. You say, would you be interested in any of these? You say, would you be interested in doing a trade if they say they don't want to buy anything? Then if you say, oh, I could probably trade, then they try to negotiate with whatever you got in the case. And then it all ends with a handshake. It's like, it's all the same. I told you. They all have the same script. They all do the same stuff.
But like, I don't shake hands with people when I sell them my 3 for $1 cards. Like, and I didn't bring any to the show. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's definitely a young man's thing, and it's just, and I mean young like that, like 13 to like under 25 kind of thing. I guess that would be. It's not Gen Z. What is that? Gen A, Gen
Yeah,
Alpha or
alpha, I think.
something?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I think this wasn't even happening last year. So what I'm saying is
No, it
things are
wasn't.
dramatically changing in a very quick time frame. That's all.
It's a huge shift to everything being about social clout.
Right.
And it's been heading this way for years. But
Yeah.
now it's overtaken the card industry, I think, by like gangbusters.
So there were 6 autograph signers at the show, not counting the free signers that were at the upper deck booth. You had Yarmir Yager, Megan Keller, Jerry Korab, Grant Mulvey, Billy Smith, Reed Simpson. Hey, Clemente, how come you didn't try to go for get a picture of Yager? That would have been pretty cool.
I just wasn't. I was there so long. I was like wanting to move on. Other things I didn't see, but I did see him. Given how expensive he was, there were people getting not cards signed. They were like, I saw one picture that someone was getting like a Stanley Cup replica signed, and like, if you're gonna spend this kind of money, you just can't get a hockey card signed, even a rookie card. It's got to be something better than that.
A couple of years back, I sold quite a few Yarmir Yager rookie cards, and people were like, "Yeah, I want to get his rookie card signed." Like that was what they were after. But like, yeah, I mean, once you get really expensive, then it's like it's almost like you don't want to. You're not gonna get like a cheap card signed. You're gonna get something nice signed, like a 11x14 or a jersey or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is more hockey signers than last year. And we got a little bit of star power here with Keller and Yager and Smith. The Blackhawk players that they had, as Tim astutely pointed out a couple weeks back when we did our national preview, Jerry Korab only played like 2 seasons with the Blackhawks and is probably best known as a Sabre. So that was just kind of an odd pick. Grant Mulvey was supposed to be at the show last year, but he canceled, so he's here this year. Was here this year. And then Reed Simpson was a really odd pick because he was with the Blackhawks for like a minute, but he was like with a lot of teams for like a minute because, like, I think he has like one not counting team issue cards, he has like a Blackhawks card in like Topps and OPC from like 99 and 2000. And he has a Blues card from Topps and OPC from 2001, 2002. And he has a Be a Player card as a Devil from 97, 98. And I think those are his only like NHL cards, and then he has a Wilkes-Barre Scranton card. He has a Milwaukee Admirals card. He has a Hershey Bears card. He has a Chicago Wolves card because he played in the minors a lot. So, and not throwing shade because, it's cool to get players who were fan favorites or who were fighters, and fighters tend to be fan favorites. But I would think someone like a Stu Grimson or a Dave Manson or a trying to think of some of the more popular fighters on the Blackhawks would maybe draw a little more attention. So, listen, step in the right direction, right? Can we just agree? Like, what was it last year? 1, not counting Emilio Estevez. It was like 1. Was it Hasek last year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now we go from 1 to 6. So I guess they've 5x'd the hobby, 6x'd the hobby. I got a few things signed. Clemente was so nice to get me this Taylor Heise autograph on this 5x7 card, which is cool. It's awesome. Go in the personal collection. Drew and Aaron from the TTM cast got me autographs from Grant Mulvey and Jerry Korab. What's it called? Steve Ellis got me that card that you see at the bottom, that generic like hockey puck card. He got that signed for me from Reed Simpson. And then another collector named William, who I just happened to strike up a conversation with. He was like buying some cards for me. And I'm like, well, hey, let's help each other out. I'll give you these cards. Can you get me some Reed Simpson autographs? So I was able to score a few autographs, even though I wasn't able to stray from my booth. And these two. Clemente and I got redemption packs from Upper Deck, and we were underwhelmed by our autographs. The redemption packs, they were limited to 100 per drop. So they'd say, like, wear an NHL jersey to our booth and get a redemption pack, or bring any Connor Bedard card from 23-24 to our booth and get a redemption pack. And my redemption pack had a Vladimir Tarasenko autograph. And I saw the Wild jersey and I thought it was Kirill Kaprizov, and I got excited. Then I saw the name and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I think, what did you say, Clemente, when you got your card? Was that wah, Jamie Drysdale?
I mean, look, we should point out Drew got a Lundqvist autograph. So look, there's some winners in there. We just didn't get lucky. So.
Drew got a Lundqvist and Diane got Megan Keller.
Right.
And we get Jamie Drysdale and Vladimir Tarasenko.
You can't win them all.
Can't win them all, but man, I mean, just between the two of us, you think maybe one of us would have hit it, right?
Those are both better than the one I got, though.
What did you get?
Nothing.
Oh. I don't know. Nothing could be anything, though.
But nothing could also be nothing, and that's exactly what it was.
You get nothing and you like it. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Whatever. So, I did get a few things for my personal collection as well. One listener, and I can't remember who sold it to me, and I apologize. But they brought me this Ab DeMarco 1939-40 O-Pee-Chee card, which is 5x7, and it was in this KSA Raw grade 4 top loader, which I didn't feel like removing it from the top loader because, hey, it's kind of graded, so cool. And then I found this Bobby Orr postcard that was given out by the Blackhawks during the 77-78 season. I know that because on the back it has statistics, and it has the statistics for 76-77. Now, 77-78, Bobby Orr was an assistant coach with the team, so they were still promoting him. And, like I said, this was a giveaway item. Tim gave me a Ryan O'Reilly jersey card for my personal collection. I picked up a Bobby Hull autograph. That's not his rookie card. It's a reprint of his rookie card. I don't know what company made this reprint. It doesn't matter. I like it. It's printed on like old school cardstock. And I like the fact that Bobby wrote number 16 next to his name, which was the number that he wore when he was a rookie. And then Clemente gave me a Day with the Cup Patrick Sharp card, which replaces the one my ex girlfriend took from me when we broke up. So it kind of fills that void. I don't say fills that void a little bit, but hey, Clemente, if you're feeling generous, you can next time you see me, you could bring me a Nintendo GameCube and 100-foot extension cord and one of those camping batteries that you plug into that like powers your lights. Because those are the other things she took when we broke up.
Now you're just getting greedy.
Was it the 100-foot extension cord?
I can't fit that in my bag.
Because it was even on like one of those spools, so you can wind it up real easily.
You're
like,
not getting that through TSA. Forget it.
What are you doing with this extension cord?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a gift for my friend Salim. Yeah. Oh, I didn't say that last part out loud. Yeah, so thanks guys for the cards, and thanks to the listeners. Who the Bobby R bought from a dealer who I know who I know, but I also know that he doesn't listen to this podcast. But it was nice. I mean, he recognized me. He's like, "Oh yeah, you set up across from me at the Chicago Sports Spectacular all the time," and then he like knocked like $10 off the price, and I'm like, I almost felt dirty. I'm like, no, I am super happy to pay the price on the sticker because this is something I've wanted for a long time. He's like, no, you're good. Just give me this much. So cool. I mean, it was weird. I got a discount and I didn't want it. I was just like, no, I want to pay you full price because it's such a good price for this. So, did you guys want to talk about anything you picked up? I know, Clemente, you picked up a Celebrini.
No, I picked up the Schaefer Young Gun, and a few odds and ends, but I didn't buy a lot because we did mention prices were pretty high, I thought, but I think it was good on dealers to try to keep a united front against the flippers and the repackers, so I get it. But yeah, no, I didn't pick up anything amazing. You gave me a few autographs, which was nice. That kind of spillover compared to my 17 autographs from last year. We really went hog wild last year on the autographs. But other than that, it was not. I did spend a lot of the national working, in terms of writing stories and getting information and all that kind of thing. But I was able to squeeze in a lot of fun in between. So no major pickups, but I'm always trying to get one or two things, in person. And like I said, I can buy this stuff on eBay, but it's nice to go there with a bit of a wish list. But also, I want to find things I might not know exist. We should point out that there isn't a ton of hockey here, and I would have loved to have seen more dealers that had boxes you could rummage through, and there really wasn't a lot of that. I've seen more hockey at like the Chicago Sports Spectacular, or even like at a White Plains show here, near me, compared to the National, which is just a little disappointing.
I mean, I remember at the 2019 National, before all this shit went sideways and things got crazy, I remember a dealer actually bringing monster boxes of hockey singles,
Right.
and me like pulling out my list and saying, "Oh, cool, I can complete some base sets." And I think they even brought like singles from like the 90s, and I was just like, "Cool, I need 90s score hockey, and you have them, and they're 10 cents each, and I'm just gonna take my time and find the ones that I need to fill like duplicate sets."
Well, because it all goes back to that comment we made earlier that dealers have cards that are much more expensive. Some of them want to bring these monster boxes and take up showcase space, and they can make more money.
Well,
And
because the prices have gone up for
the
tables.
And the price, exactly. And then I think a lot of the product is being broken by breakers, not by dealers or by stores anymore. And the breakers, they throw those base cards in the garbage, so you don't even really see them. They pull out just the big names, the numbered cards, the parallels, the inserts, and everything else goes bye-bye. So you never really get to see much else, and it's a shame because we love a hobby that produces so many sets every year, so many cards, but everyone ever talks about is 3-4 cards. That's it.
Yeah. Tim, what about you? Any pickups? You got those Penguins magazines. Anything else?
Well, since I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time looking at a whole lot of stuff, there wasn't really much time for me to dig through things to try to find stuff that I wanted. So, as my son will point out to you, I spent $114 at this show, and he's never seen me spend so little money at a card show before.
And that was on admission.
It cost $110 to get in, and I spent $114 while we were there. So I ended up with, I mean, it was just random stuff I found for Penguins PC, and I did find a guy with a box that had a whole bunch of jersey cards and auto cards for a few bucks each, and I may have pulled out like $50 or $60 worth out of there of some interesting Penguins and various Hall of Famers that I liked. So definitely nothing big scale, nothing that I had on my checklist of things to do and cover.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, don't get me wrong. I can rant about things, but that's more of a generalized viewpoint on how things have headed. I think the show was good. I think the show was really good. I wish I could have spent more time there, but it is what it is.
Any final thoughts about the National? Maybe something you want to circle back on, or just we've said a lot. We've gone over 2 hours. We do know that the National is going to be bigger next year. It's probably going to have a bigger footprint upstairs. I think what they're doing is, because they did this last year. Last year, for 2026, they used the 2025 floor plan as like their template, but then they changed it since then. And now for 2027, they used the 2026 floor plan as their template. But I'm pretty sure they're changing it because, you don't leave money on the table. So what happened is that, why did a lot of dealers from this year, who were, like I said, a priority one, which means doing their first national, so it was me and 199 other people like that. So why did only 50 of them get tables? And the reason is because people who did not do the national for a long time but did it before have a higher priority. So let me give you, for instance, like our friends Paul and Diane. They did the national from 2000 to 2007, and then they stopped. And then when they decided to get back into it last year, and they applied, they said, oh, well, you did 7 nationals. So you actually have a higher priority than even like a breaker. I'm not talking about like a big breaker like whatnot, but like somebody who maybe did 21, 22, 23, 24, they would have a higher priority because they did 2000 through 2007. Or you might have somebody who couldn't do this year, but they did the last 3 years, and they're going to do next year. So what happens then is they bump people. And like some guys who had a booth, and they're like, well, you had a booth for 2026, but you're not getting a booth in 2027, but we will let you take 2 tables instead of 1 table. So then that's displacing a lot of the 1 table noobs like myself. So that's why I was happy to get in. But what I'm saying is that you have a bunch of people that want a table, and you have a lot of room, you figure something out. And then there were even people who applied to be in the show next year who never were in the show before. So I think that they're going to try to find a way to include as many of those people as they can, because that's money. And so, yeah, next year will be even bigger. At least I think it will, because they'll, why not? You got the demand for it. And if you got the supply being the space. Oh, and the other thing I'll say, not that you guys will care about this, but I'm going to mention this anyways, because I get to be a dealer again and I get to give you the inside scoop, that the physical table that I had did not belong to the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center. It was rented. They needed so many tables, they had to rent tables. And I know this for 2 reasons. One, the big giveaway was I saw a table flipped over and spray painted on it. It said something like XYZ Convention Rentals Incorporated or something like that. So they rented it. But the other thing is that it was actually physically a nice table. Like when you get a Donald E. Stevens Convention Center table, it's like this ratty old table that's 8 feet by 2 feet that has staples stuck in it on the top and on the sides where they would staple tablecloths or curtains. And they're 8 by 2. These were 8 feet by 2.5 feet. So they were deeper. They allowed us to fit more merchandise. And they had this nice metal edging around them, which means they didn't like chip and splinter. And they even had like a gloss finish on them. I know I'm getting super detailed about this, but what I'm saying is that it was like a nice table, but they had to rent stuff from an outside company because it basically they used up all the tables at the convention center. So, anyways, that's my thoughts.
I'll just conclude to say, great show, big show. We criticize because we love it, but I think if for next year, if it's going to be even bigger, they need to figure out how to reduce bottlenecks and make it a more enjoyable experience throughout. Otherwise, it can become tedious, it can become difficult, it can become disheartening at moments, and you don't want that. And so they have to work on that. And I know they're going to work on things. We can talk about that. That's in the future at some point. They're going to work on reducing the number of tables people bring in and all kinds of other things. And hopefully that will help. They have to have more rules in place, and they'd be curious to see how that, if implemented properly, how that will work. Because right now, like what we had on Saturday, really, you can't have a repeat of that. Otherwise, people will not want to. It reminds me of the old Yogi Berra saying, place is so popular, nobody goes there anymore. And so this is becoming, you don't want to dissuade people from going, especially the real collectors. You want them to keep going.
Yeah. I like to see more people. I like to see bigger crowds. I like to see all that. I think all of us can coexist in this world. Like those old bumper stickers, the coexist bumper stickers. There should be one for the hobby. We can all coexist in this ecosystem. In fact, we all need each other. I'm going to stay on my side, and you guys can stay on your side. It's fine. And I'll complain about you, and you'll complain about me, and we'll just coexist. How about that?
I think that's a healthy attitude. Look, the hobby has grown and it's become a better thing. But I think when you grow, you have growing pains. It's hard to be cliche, but that's the thing. I mean, the hobby was very static for a while. Static, stagnant. Now it's kind of growing too fast for its own good, but it's still good. I thought the National was overwhelming when I went to it the first time in 2008. And then when I went again in 2011, it was a little less overwhelming because I went 5 days instead of 1 day. But, now it's just overwhelming. I was overwhelmed. I wandered through that Whatnot booth, and that was overwhelming. I tried to get from one end of the show to the other, and it was just like, it took forever. And yeah, sometimes you get too much of a good thing. But I guess like when something like this is popular, and clearly it's profitable for the promoters, they're going to figure out how to make it better. I mean, they even said when we were doing the booth lottery, they apologized. They said, you know what? We know this is kind of a backward system. We're all here. We're using paper. You're showing up at 7 a.m, and we're having a delay because of this, because of that. And they say, we really hope to have this smoothed out for next year. But just thank you for understanding and being patient with us as we work through these problems. And I thought that was really nice. They were just owning up to saying, yeah, this isn't perfect and we know it and we're trying to improve it. As a seller, I don't really have any complaints. As a collector, I think I'd be a little annoyed with the things that you mentioned. I mean, overall, I think it was a great experience, and I'm sure we'll all be back again next year, right?
I think so.
Tim will say no, but he'll still be there because he always says no, and then he's always there.
I might only be there Wednesday this time.
It's not a bad idea. Wednesday, Sunday. Friday and Saturday were the busiest days. I would say Wednesday and Sunday were the least busiest days, and that actually might make sense. If you go on the first day, who do you have? You have the hardcore people who are worried about dropping their things off PSA. It's almost like they have an agenda to do. Maybe they want to browse tables, but they're probably not hitting the same stuff that you're chasing, Tim. And then Sunday, last day, good day to make deals, and less crowded. So that's actually a really good idea. So I think on that we should end it, because we're ending on a good idea. So thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed the show so much, please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to this podcast. If you want to support the podcast, you could do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And until next time, collect what you like.